cover dating, relationships, confidence, self-love and self-care as my main topic areas, and I live and breathe these. So I'm not actually in a relationship. I have to say I am single, but I've been on the dating scene for over 10 years now, and I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, who's one of the best in the world at love, dating, relationships, coaching. So I learn from the best. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you how to spot red flags in dating and relationships or potential relationships, and how to deal with those as well, especially when attraction is high. So I have to let you know that I'm asexual in sexual orientation. And what that means is I lack sexual attraction, but I still experience lots of other attractions, multiple attractions for guys. I'm not attracted to any other gender but guys. And this can be very difficult because my aesthetic attraction for guys, particularly for younger foreign guys, I would say can be, and romantic attraction for some younger foreign guys, can be as strong as sexual attraction is for heterosexuals, for example, and sexuals in general. So although I don't experience any sexual attraction, I do experience a lot of attraction, but just not sexual attraction. And so in this video, I'm going to be explaining how to spot red flags and deal with them when attraction is high, what I've learned over the years, which is very difficult to do. It's really, really hard. I'm going to be talking from my own personal experience. So I will be taking questions later on, but I want to tell you my own personal story about what's happened in the last 24 hours so that you are able to relate to it and understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to protect the privacy of the person that I'm going to be speaking about, so I'm not going to name them. And there might be details that I can't share on this channel with you, but I'm going to give some main things that were red flags for me and what I did in this very difficult situation for me. So there is a guy who works near me and actually lives in the same block of flats as me. You might have heard me mention that a guy's helped me with food shopping before, right? And he sends me some text messages sometimes, and you know, we've got on well so far, right? And I have had some attraction to this guy, and I've not known where he's had attraction to me or not. I picked up the fact I think he was attracted to me and is attracted to me, but he kept chopping and changing from saying in messages like, oh, I'm just your neighbour, to asking me other questions about myself. And obviously doing shopping, I have other neighbours that don't do any shopping for me whatsoever. And he calls me Sandy. Well, I have had a lifetime of being called Sandra. That's my real name. And the only people in this lifetime who's called me Sandy are guys who've been highly attracted to me. So as soon as he started calling me Sandy, which was quite early on in our connection, I think this guy must fancy me. Plus, you know, you can just kind of tell the way someone seems really happy to see you. And when they message you going, oh, I didn't see you today, because I happen to walk past where he works quite a lot, because it's literally round the corner from where I live. And he lives in the same block of flats as me, but downstairs. So he's like a neighbour, but not an adjoining neighbour, right? So anyway, he is younger and foreign, and as you know on this channel, I do like younger foreign guys. He's not Indian, right? I've always believed since 2014 that I have an Indian soulmate somewhere, right? So he's not Indian. He is younger and he is foreign, and he is in his 20s. Anyway, he's in the upper 20s, nearly 30. So he's older than I would usually be interested in. He looks about 27, but he's actually 29, I found out. Anyway, I'm going to continue with my story. So I've had attraction for this guy for quite some time, probably since I was going to say when I first met him, but probably before that, because I used to see him in the place where he works, and he stands out because his hair is quite different to the people in his place of work. And I thought he was a manager in there because I always used to see him in there when I walked past. And he is the manager in there. I was dead right about that, but he never noticed me until I spoke to him when he's moved in here. And by that time he'd been like living in this block of flats for about 2 months. I didn't ever see him before that in this block of flats. So what happened is last night things changed. So he was messaging me, and I all of a sudden ended up, because he did some shopping for me and I gave him the money back for the shopping, and then his name isn't what he calls himself. He changed his name because he didn't like his name, but on his bank details it's his real name. And I said, oh, it's a really nice real name you've got. It sounds like Indian. You know what I mean, but I know you're not Indian. And he told me he changed it, and he told me the reason why. And his name, the first name, I actually used to have an Indian friend years ago called that name, although the guy used to fancy me. It was romantic attraction with him, and it brought back memories of that guy. And then he said, oh yeah, people used to call me this name, which was a shortened version of it. And a guy I dated online who broke my heart, actually, an Indian guy, both these were Indian guys, he had that name. And so I got a little bit tearful and sad over that, because I'm like, oh my God, I've kind of remembered that from years ago. And, you know, the latter guy really broke my heart. And because he was going to come over to the UK and then change his mind. Like, I'm not going to be in a relationship or date anyone ever again that's abroad, as far as I know, because I just never works for me. I can't be in a long distance relationship. I can't even be in a long distance relationship in the UK. Like, last time I had a boyfriend in 2024, it was just absolutely horrendous. So the fact this guy lives in the same block of flats as me, in an ideal world, an ideal relationship, for example, and dating scenario, it'd be great, because I've always wanted a guy who lives near me but not with me. So that is quite convenient, right? Convenience doesn't mean to say it's a good thing, though. You can't go and have a relationship or date someone just for convenience, right? It's important I'm telling you all these details, because we're going to talk about how to spot red flags, okay? But most people go for what's convenient in life. But just because something's convenient doesn't mean to say it's right for you. And if you find out there's red flags, despite convenience, you have to understand the red flags and you have to take notice of them. When we get very attracted to someone and we have a lot of chemistry with them, I have asexual chemistry, you no doubt has sexual chemistry coming from him to me. Then when we have this chemistry going on, it's very easy to not understand red flags, not see red flags, or ignore red flags, subconsciously see them, but then choose to dismiss them and avoid them and not think about them because you really like the person. So because this guy's downstairs, I have been thinking about him. And when he messages me, it creates this feeling like I want to hear from him more, yeah? And I have thought, oh my God, he's only downstairs. You could be with him, Sandra. You could be cuddling him and stuff like this. So that goes through my mind. I've even thought about kissing him a bit, but he's bearded and I don't usually like beards. He's got facial hair and usually I really don't like beards. I kissed a bearded guy last year for the first time, but it's really a barrier to kissing for me because I love kissing for long periods of time. I'm a hyper kisser and hyper romantic. And so really it doesn't suit me being with a guy who's got loads of facial hair because, it's trimmed, but it's just quite a lot, because I really need smooth shaven guy for kissing. Plus, I think a person looks so much better when he's clean shaven. Like I said, I'll take any questions in chat later on, but I want to finish my personal story. This is real life. This is what's happened in the last 24 hours, okay? So, hello to everyone in chat. Right, let's carry on. So, the guy, like I said, lives in the same block of flats as me. He works just around the corner, and I see him in his work sometimes, going past his work and this. Right, we understand that, right? He's taking me shopping once. He's done some shopping for me as well, and messages me sometimes, right? But right, so last night he messaged me, and I told you that his names reminded me of past guys that I was interested in, right? And so what happened there was he then started texting me, and I ended up saying that I was feeling a bit sad because it reminded me of exes, and I went off into a bit of a tangent with that. And then I thought, oh shoot, I don't want him to start. Subconsciously, I guess I wanted to bring up dating relationships because we hadn't talked about that, and I have attraction for him and I didn't know how he felt about me. So subconsciously, I kind of wanted to bring up past exes in order to kind of let him know that I like younger foreign guys, because I've never actually said that outright before. And though the guys were Indian, because I like younger foreign guys, then obviously it's kind of makes a segue for him into being able to message me if he's interested in that. And so what developed during this text messaging conversations, he then said, oh yeah, you're a beautiful woman, respectable woman, and I'm open to love and I'd like to get to know you better. And then later on he was messaging me going, oh, I really could do with someone. I could do with basically he wanted me to go to his flat, and he was asking me to. He said he had a really stressful week, and that he really needed someone to talk to, and that he wanted like to have me go and cuddle him and say read him a story till he goes to sleep. And I was like, what the hell? So I thought this meant sex, right? I'm like, oh my god. So anyway, I had to say to him, right, spell it out. He's foreign, so there's a language barrier there, right? It's not easy to talk to him messages sometimes. So I had to say to him, I don't want to sleep with you, and I'm asexual in sexual orientation. I'm asexual, not heterosexual. So I don't experience sexual attraction and don't want sex. Not even in a relationship am I interested in sex. So I don't want to like have sex. And then he messaged me back going, no, I didn't mean that. I meant to come and just give me a cuddle, because he said, you have no idea of how lonely I am. It's very difficult being in the UK. And he said, I can tell you my personal story about my time in the UK. And he said, I'm just feeling really lonely right now. And that I need, I just basically he wanted me to cuddle him, I think, but I didn't agree to that. Anyway, I agreed to like going to talk to him, but I had to eat my food first. And first of all, he was like really wanting to like see me at that minute, right? Obviously, this could be a potential red flag, because if the guy is so absorbed, well, this is a bit of an amber to red flag. If the guy is so absorbed that he's only focusing on himself, and he's like, I want you there now, and it's kind of out of the blue as well, because we haven't dated, we're not in a relationship, then do you know what I mean? The fact he wanted me to go to his flat in the middle of the morning, this was like well, it was before midnight, but I had to eat my food, and I said, he's like, I want you there now. I said, I can't come now, I need to eat my food. I've just taken it out of the oven, I need to eat it first. If you're still awake after that, then I'll come and talk to you. And I just said I come and talk to him. I didn't say I'd do anything else, right? And that and so anyway, I ate my food. I said, if you're still awake after that, I'll message you after I finish my food. If you're still awake, then I'll come and knock on your door, and I can see you and talk to you. Right? So he opened the door. Bear in mind, this is a guy I do have attraction for. I've had attraction for him for quite some time now. Probably from before the first time I ever saw him, because I used to see him walk past his work. And he was in a Hugo Boss white top with black like bottoms. I think they were like long shorts or something. I don't know. I don't really look down at a guy's bottom part, because I'm not interested in that as a sex repulsed asexual. I'm not interested in genitalia. So all I'm interested really in the guy's face and the top part, their shoulders, this thing. So this is what I mostly look at. So I just noticed he had like black trousers or shorts on or something. I don't really know, because I wasn't looking. I was just like saw the top bit of it, right? Because he had this Hugo Boss, like loads of women would probably be really attracted to him because he's very muscly, which I don't go for muscles usually, in a tight Hugo Boss top. And he did look good looking in that, like he's not my idol type because I prefer Indian guys, but you know what I mean? There's quite a few women that probably have pounced on him if they hadn't been asexual like I am, and if they're not even bothered about red flags and they're into casual stuff or whatever and hooking up, which I'm not, right? So anyway, I want to put that out there, right? So anyway, but he, you know what I mean? I have clothes attraction. So I get attracted more to a guy depending on the type of clothes he's wearing, right? And so the fact he had this top on that looked really nice on him with his dark hair, looked, that was attractive. Anyway, he's still not as attractive as Indian guys are to me. But anyway, so I asked him, like, where do you want me to sit? So he led me into his he led me into his bedroom. I'm like, oh God, I haven't been in a guy's flat for years, right? And a guy leading me into his room. Obviously, I've known him for over a couple of months now as like a neighbour and stuff. So it's not like I don't know this guy at all, but I don't usually go in a guy's flat, right? I took bags with me of water, I took my phone and everything, and I was very aware that if there was going to be any problem, I would just leave, right? Because I don't want to be doing anything that I don't feel comfortable with, right? And my intention was not to do anything physical, right? So anyway, I said, why do you want me to sit? He's like, oh, on the bed. But he wanted me to lie down next to him and basically cuddle him. And I didn't do that. I just sat on the edge of the bed while he was like in Well, he was in one side and I was just sat on the edge. I'm trying to do it so that you can see it because you're backwards to me on the phone, right? So he was like lying on the bed and I was just sat on the edge of the side of the other side. I was sat over it because I had my legs over it. It's got a double bed frame, right? And all I was doing was talking to him, drinking water. I wasn't like reaching out. He wanted me to like lie beside him and cuddle him and that. I'm like, I'm not. And so I had to explain to him, I said, I'm not doing that because we're not dating and we're not in a relationship together. Right. So I said, I'm not doing that. Right. But anyway, he kind of like said, so initially there was quite a lot. I mean, I was there for about an hour and a half in total. So basically, when I first went in there, he basically said about, oh, you can lie down next to me. Because I obviously from the text, he wasn't about cuddling him. But I'm like, I'm not cuddling a neighbour, right? Like that, because we weren't dating or anything. So anyway, I kind of like just sat on the bed. And then I was talking. I said, oh, so you wanted to talk to me about something because you're stressed out, right? You said that you're really, stressed. And so, you know, like, tell me about it. Do you want to tell me about that? But he wouldn't tell me. I thought it was to do with work, but it wasn't. So he wouldn't tell me. I said, well, if you don't want to tell me, you don't want to tell me. But I thought that was the point of me coming here. You said you were stressed. So during the conversation, he then started saying he was single. I'm like, yes, you're single. He goes, I like a girl. I said, so what am I doing here then? If you like a girl, why isn't she here with you? Why am I sat here on this bed with you? If you like a girl. And I thought he probably means me, but I was pretending that I didn't know he was talking about me. So the whole time I'm just going, but I don't understand. Why am I sat here? If you like a girl, why aren't you with her? Why aren't you with this girl? Like, how long have you liked her for? And he's like, oh, in the last week. Like, on Monday, I was thinking about changing my life and I was like on my own all day and I was thinking. And I'm like, oh, so you were thinking about this girl? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh. And I said, do you think about this girl in your work? And he's like, yeah. And I said, like, how long have you been like thinking about this way about this girl? And I go, just this week. He goes, yeah, maybe. And so anyway, it took him ages to admit it was actually me because he was going on and on and on. And so I'm like going, you know, like, why am I here? Why are you sat talking to me and telling me all this? You should be with her. Do you know what I mean? And eventually I said to him, oh, so I'm the girl you like, yeah? And he's like, yeah, but I was, and he was, because he kept saying I'm shy, and I'm like, oh, so I'm the girl you like. He said guy, then I don't care. And he's like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, why didn't you just say that? He goes, I'm too shy. So anyway, so then he was like, he started stroking my leg, I have to say, while he was talking to me. For like half an hour, he's stroking my leg. Because I have my leg up like this. Let me show you. So I have it like this. I sit a lot like this. So I'm sat. Actually, I was wearing this t-shirt and black trousers as well. So, you know, I have my leg over like this. Obviously, I wasn't having my slippers on. So I have it over my knee. So he was stroking this leg through the trousers, right? But I didn't actually mind that. It was quite comfortable and comforting. So it was kind of weird that I didn't even say anything about that to him. It was like he was doing it without even knowing he was doing it or something. I don't know. He was just doing that. So I let him carry on with that because I didn't actually mind that. But I thought, like, I'm pretending I don't know that he likes me, right? He clearly likes me if he's stroking my leg, right? But I was just, I wanted to hear it from him. I wanted him to admit that he liked me, you know, and I wanted him to get around to saying it. But if it's me, I would have just come out with it. But then I've got a lot more balls than a lot of guys have, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very outspoken and direct because I don't believe in beating around the bush unless it's necessary, right? Anyway, but, you know, if it's a guy and I want to make sure that he actually does like me, I don't want to, like, assume, do you know what I mean? But it's pretty obvious. So anyway, he eventually admitted it to me. I'm like, why didn't you just tell me that? So anyway, the conversation went on and then he was at one point, he had his hand down, like, out like that. And I thought, I think you want me to hold your hand, but I'm not doing that because you haven't asked me to. So anyway, later on, he then said about, do you want to try having a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with me? And so I said the truth, which was really, really hard. So I said why it wouldn't work between me and him. So I said to him that young love, right? Young idea of love and relationships is you have attraction, you get together and, like, you know, everything's like great or whatever. And that's like an ideal, like a younger ideal of love. But in a mature adult love, you have to think of it in a different way. You have to think of it as in like having a long-term healthy relationship. And I said, it's easy to get into a relationship, but it's harder to maintain and sustain that in a healthy way and have a healthy relationship. And I believe me and him are very different people with the opposites in personality type. So I don't think that it could work out. Even though I said I do like you, I don't think it would work, because you come across to me as a type of guy that's laid back, spontaneous, likes to do random things, doesn't like planning in advance things, likes to kind of go with the flow and stuff like that. And I said, I'm not that type of person. I said that I like to plan things in advance. I like dates planned in advance. I like even plan phone calls and even when I've had friends in the past, I've planned phone calls with them, video calls with them, stuff like that. And I said, you're not consistent with me. Red flag. There's a lot of red flags here, right? So I said, you're not consistent with me. A person, in this case, a guy who's not consistent in their communication, that's a huge red flag, right? It's not good enough, right? It means they're flaky. They're not taking the connection seriously. It doesn't mean enough to them. They're not invested in it, right? So when you get the adult, more healthy version of what love looks like, you're looking for someone who, what I was explaining to him, is I need someone who's consistent, persistent. I like lots of communication, so I like to hear from the guy, like in the morning. I said, you don't message me, you're inconsistent in your messaging. Sometimes you message me like a few times or one time, and then I don't hear from you for like 1 or 2 weeks. So that's really inconsistent for me. And I said, that wouldn't make me feel good. I said, I like a lot of communication. I said, you never message me before your work. You never message me during your work breaks. And you're inconsistent when you do message. And I need someone who's consistent, who's persistent, who makes plans in advance, who makes dates. And he's like, oh yeah, apart from the work and gym, I'm lazy with everything else, with making plans and everything. And he says, I just go with the flow of, like, if my friends, like say go somewhere, I'm very influenced by it and just go. Like, that is not good, right? So there's already red flags, and their inconsistency is a red flag. If they're inconsistent, you can't feel safe and secure with someone who's inconsistent with you. It'll F your nervous system up. You'll feel that pull and that tug of war. Because it makes you go crazy inside. It's like a dopamine hit and taken away, dopamine hit and taken away. Unfortunately, it's a tactic. He's not using it as a tactic. That's just the way it is. But there is a tactic used by really bad dating coaches that are teaching guys how to get women hooked on them and keep them hooked and dangling on a string and have very low quality, shallow connections, right? It's something they actually teach to keep women on a leash or hook, or however disgusting and dismissive they speak about women. There's guys out there now earning millions of pounds teaching this rubbish, right, to young guys, teaching them how to be unhealthy in a relationship to get as many women and pull and hook them in as possible. It's disgusting, right? The guy's not intentionally doing this to hurt me, right? But he's not invested in me. He's not really that interested, right? He's only interested in when it suits him and it's convenient for him, right? This is all red flags. It's not always 100% when it's convenient to him, because he did take me food shopping, which was when it wasn't convenient to him. He was seeing his friend at the time and he was really busy and stuff. But in the main, it's still when he's like, most of the time, it's when it's more convenient to him, right? Particularly last night, it was all about him. He wanted, cuddling, which I didn't do. He wanted like comforting. He wanted to be there at a set and, be there immediately, which I wasn't, because I had to eat my food. Always put yourself first in that way. Do not go just when a guy demands. The fact he was like wanting me there quite instantly when we hadn't even dated or had a relationship, he's asking me into his bedroom, is obviously a bit of a red flag anyway. So there's lots of red flags with this guy, right? But bear in mind, I'm really highly attracted to this guy in quite a lot of ways. And I have been thinking about him. I have been even thinking it'd be so nice to be in his home with him. This is my emotional side speaking. So when you're spotting red flags, you have to be aware of them and you have to deal with them from a logical standpoint of view, not emotional. So in my emotions, right, in some ways it was my dream scenario that I'd thought about in my head, like, oh, it'd be so nice to just be close to him. He's only downstairs in the flat. It'd be so nice that, like, in my kind of like romanticizing of him in my mind. And obviously I had that opportunity, but I didn't do that because of all these red flags, right? And it wasn't appropriate. We weren't dating, we weren't in a relationship, right? So I'm telling you this so that you can learn, because this is a true account of what happened, right? I haven't given every single detail. I was there with him an hour and a half. I don't think it's fair to share every personal thing or whatever he said to me, but I'm telling you quite a bit so that you can spot the red flags for yourself, because usually I would be so overwhelmed with attraction that I would succumb to being closer to a guy, because I would feel like, I want to in that moment, right? But I held myself back on purpose, which was one of the most hardest things to do in my life. It was very, very difficult, right? It was hard for me, right? In the sense that I am attracted to him. I'm in his room with him. It would have been easy to like start cuddling him, stroking his hair, whatever. But I tend to be a giver in dating, in relationships. And I end up with guys who are takers, right? And he displayed a lot of the traits that are not good or healthy for me to be with in a relationship or dating scenario, right? So I explained to him everything I need in a relationship, and I explained to him that our personalities are very different, and I don't think at this point in his life that he would be suitable for me to be in a healthy relationship with. And I told him I am not looking for something short term, and I'm not looking for something casual. Because he was like, oh, well, don't talk about 10 years time. I said, I'm not looking for something like short term or casual. I said, we haven't dated, and we're not in a relationship, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to like go around cuddling you, because we've not even dated and we're not in a relationship. So he wasn't bothered about that, right? So it seemed to me like he wanted a neighbor thing with benefits, right? Or situationship with me, which I'm not having. So you have to put boundaries in place with these people, however much you're attracted to them. And you have to let them know it's not okay to get physicality from you because they're feeling lonely, right? Even if they give you a sob story, even if I believe it's true. I believe he's very lonely over here, because I know other foreign guys I've met. And because I hug him usually as a neighbour when he's like got shopping for me, I know he's probably been craving that touch, that physical touch a lot, and especially from a female, because he told me his family is all back in his country. He can't go back into his country. It's a country that's, like unsafe to live in. So he's got leave to remain in the UK. And he's a manager, he's got a good job. So he's very good at what he does and he loves it, but he's always working. And I said to him, you're always working. When would you even find time for a girlfriend? You're either working at the gym, or seeing your mates. Like, at the moment, I don't even see how a girl would even fit into your plans, because you're going back into work at the drop of a hat. Do you know what I mean? You're like, go into work, you know what I mean? So it's good he likes working, but I said, I don't see how a girl would fit in. I said, what happens when your mates want to see you? You've got work and your girlfriend wants to see you. I said, I don't even understand how that would work. But he said, oh, well, nah. And he was like, oh, he's like, I was thinking about changing my butt, on Monday, and I was thinking about stuff. But I said, you're not at this, like, our personalities are opposite to each other. I said, and I want someone who is reliable, who turns up on time or before time, who makes plans in advance. He goes, oh, but you're good at making plans. You can make plans. I said, I don't want to be making the plans all the time. I want a guy that makes the plans some of the time. And I said, and you're disorganized like that. And he goes, yeah, I'm lazy. And like, he's like chaotic and disorganized. He admits it, right? Because he's a lot more laid back than me, but I'm not that type of person. I said, and it would make me more anxiety induced and stressed out to be with a guy that was like that, because I'm the opposite of that. I need a guy who's making plans in advance of me, who's scheduling stuff in the diary and calendar so I know what I'm doing. I said, I'm going away to London in August. I've already got all the transportation paid for, the accommodation paid for, the event that I'm going to paid for, and the day after at the zoo paid for. London Zoo is all paid for. It's all sorted already, months in advance, right? Even when I put stuff in my diary and calendar each month, a lot of it's scheduled in advance because that I like to be organised. I'm very organised. Timekeeping and punctuality is a very important thing to me. And I said I do have an anxiety disorder, I have generalised anxiety disorder. And, you know, it drives me nuts even managing that myself. And I said I have to have someone who I feel, you know, like is organised and booking dates and everything. So I know that he's going to be messaging me, and I want someone who's my best friend, soulmate, you know, and life partner. I want that. That's what I'm after. So that, do you know what I mean? That I know that I have a stable and secure base there, and I want a guy who lowers my anxiety, lowers my stress, not creates more for me. And I said, if you really like to be laid back, and you know, you don't like being on time, and you don't like planning ahead and stuff like that, but I do. I'm the opposite. It's just going to stress me and you out, and it's not going to be healthy for either of us. You're going to be stressed. I'm going to be stressed. And I said, in a mature, you know, healthy relationship, you have to have constant communication, open communication, and you have to be constantly saying about how you feel, what you like, what you don't like, you know, how things are going. You have to be like this all the time with each other. I said, but I don't feel that you're at that stage. And he's like, I'd have to change. And I said, but you shouldn't change for me or anyone. He goes, no, I'd have to change for myself. I said, yeah, but you would have, if you're changing, you'd have to change for yourself. I said, but I think any girl, whoever you date, I think they'll want some, like, you know, they'll want, for example, some dates planned, and they'll want to know that they can fit into your life, whoever that is. Do you know what I mean? And I did say that I prefer clean-shaven guys to bearded guys. He goes, oh, I like my beard. I said, exactly. I said, so I just don't think we're suitable. And I explained asexuality again. And I said that I'm looking for a guy who never wants sex forever. And that's a very, very long time. And I'm not sure if you could do that. You know, it's very rare that people out, you know, I said there are asexual guys that can do that. So I said I don't want to spend my time with the wrong guy, knowing there's another guy out there that can give me what I want, an asexual guy, or, you know, a guy that can be organised. And I said I want a guy who's really enthusiastic to message me, to spend time with me, to see me, to make plans with me. I want that type of guy, you know, who really wants to see Sandra. I said, but I don't think we're compatible because we're not, me and you are just two different personality types. And so therefore, I don't think, you know, it's a good idea to do that. I don't think you're at the same stage as I am at. Do you know what I mean? So then because he had tried to hold my hand, he did ask to hold my hand. I let him hold it because it was really cold. And then as I talked about all this, he goes, you're right. And then he pulled back from me. You know, because I had to be honest, and this is the hardest thing ever. Also, during the conversation, I said a bit about my life, and that I was a YouTuber, and I've got over 2,300,000 views. And instead of asking me more about that and being more curious, all he said was, "Oh, I can advertise where I work." I'm not going to mention the thing because it might give it away. Because I guess, I could advertise there on it. You could. I'm not here to be used. I'm not here to be used. I said, if you're with me, then I might take a vlog or something of us together, like a video of us together. And I said, but I'm not being used. That's not what I would do. And so there's lots of red flags, right? And he didn't ask me hardly anything about myself throughout the whole of the conversation. It was based around him, his wants, his needs, his family, and anything that I said about myself, I had to say myself. And the fact he didn't ask me about my channel and didn't ask me much, you know, like how, you know, what do you love most about the channel, or, you know what I mean? All he did was immediately think of himself and that he could promote his business, which is ridiculous. Like, I'm the one who says what goes on my channel. Do you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So this is another huge red flag. A huge red flag is obviously a guy inviting you to his place at night on his bed is really red flag. A guy who isn't curious about you. This could swap the guy for any gender. I'm just saying guy because this is a guy I was talking to, and I'm not interested in anything on gender. But it can be any gender that could treat you like this, not just guys, right? Have to make that clear. Swap it out for any gender, right? But a person who does not ask you about yourself, is not curious about you, who talks about himself most of the time, who talks about his needs and wants, who, you know, says how lonely he is and expects you to fix his loneliness. All these are red flags. Then it's not your problem or your business to fix someone's loneliness issues, right? It's not. I don't actually have any in-person friends these days, but actually it's becoming my strength because the more I spend time on myself, the more I'm able to see red flags quicker in guys like him, who I am really attracted to, and the more I'm able to apply logic. So when you are dealing with these things, you're really attracted to someone, you have to apply logic. You have to be constantly monitoring your head for, like, if a red flag pops up, you have to actually acknowledge this is a red flag. This is the beginning. It's only going to get worse. If you've got loads of red flags, you do not want to continue going down this path. And you need to put boundaries in place, right? So I told him the reasons why we wouldn't be suitable for a relationship, why it wouldn't work, why he couldn't make me happy in a relationship, why he couldn't match my needs. And so I was actually giving him a very good life lesson in dating and relationships. Do you know what I mean? He was thanking me. And because, you know, I've basically put masterclasses that people spend years teaching this stuff into, like, a short amount of time with him. And I said that I'm very direct with you. He said, yeah, I like that about you. I said, I'm telling you. I said, you know, the stuff I've learned in my life. And he said, yeah, I really like that. You know, that you're being direct and telling me how it is. And so I think he does realise that if he's going to get into a relationship with any girl, he really does need to make some changes in his life, because at the moment he hasn't got any time really for a girl. And he doesn't even know how, he's not even interested in making plans really. He's, as his own words, is he's lazy, right? So if a guy's lazy about making plans, I've seen this all before from guys who ended up being very toxic for me. Because if a guy can't even make plans, a woman doesn't want to be making plans all the time. A girl doesn't want to be making plans all the time. You know, she needs a leader to a certain extent. And right, and the fact that he said he's swayed by his friends and he just goes with the flow of what they say and he's influenced like that, that's not a good thing, right? Because that could end up spilling over. Like, if you want to see him and you've made plans and his mates like, oh, well, come out with me, he'll be like, oh, yeah, and he won't bother maybe about his girlfriend and stuff like that. You need a guy who can say no to his friends, say no to you even, say no to his business sometimes, and that doesn't have areas just completely overtaking the other all the time. Do you know what I mean? Because I said in relationships, you have to, you know, like, a relationship is a full-time job. It takes work, you know, like people, like guys, for example, put work into their gym, into their job, like he's doing, but relationships take work as well. It's like a full-time job as well. It takes a lot of time. Do you know what I mean? So people work on other aspects of their life and work at that, but they don't work on relationship skills, right? And it's important. So I explained all this. So, you know, the fact that he'd hardly ever asked me much about myself means he's not really that interested in me as a person. He's clearly attracted to me, but that'll be my looks, aesthetics, and probably he's highly sexually attracted to me. And probably he likes my warmth and caringness, right? But that, again, is all about him, his needs. It's not about asking about myself. It's not about being curious about Sandra. It's not about really wanting to get to know me as a person. He wanted physicality with me. Yeah, cuddling. But when he was feeling lonely, right? That's not a reason for me to then go and give him what he wants. In fact, he didn't, you know, get that from me. I wasn't going to go around like doing that on his bed. It's not appropriate, because I would have ended up very hurt in a situationship with him, or friends with neighbours with friends. Well, not even friends. He hasn't even called me his friend. We're not even at the stage of friendship because we don't know each other that well. Do you know what I mean? It's more like acquaintances. I don't call him a friend because he doesn't act like a friend to me. Like, a friend is usually, a true friend is like consistent and wants to spend time with you and stuff like that. So, I mean, sure, he's had some, I guess, qualities, but you need to, before you can call someone your friend, I've learnt this as well, you need to spend a lot of time with someone. So I just call him more like an acquaintance, a neighbour and acquaintance that's being kind to me sometimes, right? So, but it's huge red flag. Red flags, like, doesn't take a personal interest in me, doesn't really ask me any questions about myself. Like, only things in text he's really asking me is like, are you watching movies? What movies are you watching? This type of thing. Doesn't really try to get to know me as a person. Huge red flag. When I mentioned about this channel, instead of him taking an interest in me and what I do on it and why I do it and asking to look at it, anything like that, he never did that. Immediately, it was all about his business. Oh, you can promote my business and get sales. It's like, you've got enough customers in your business. You work so many hours. He's like, true. So that was very, very selfish of him as well. Do you know what I mean? It's all about himself, right? Self-centered behavior is a huge red flag. All about himself. I'm not saying he's a really bad person, because obviously he's taken me shopping, which he doesn't have to do. He's got me shopping on his way from the gym home and stuff like that. So I'm not saying he's a completely selfish guy, But I'm saying, if you look at that night, how many things was all about him compared to how much was actually taking a genuine interest in me. It was mostly to do with himself. It wasn't taking, I mean, yeah, he said about trying boyfriend and girlfriend, but he's got a young ideal of that. All I think he wanted to try boyfriend girlfriend is to get some physicality with me when he felt lonely. Not to put time, energy, and effort into actually arranging dates, text messaging me, finding out who I am as a person. And I would not go to date. I wouldn't go in and straight away be boyfriend girlfriend. Years ago, I would have done that. Before I would have done that. But I'm trying to be more healthy in myself. I'm trying to understand the mistakes I made in the past, or things that I got myself into that wasn't healthy for me. This would not have been healthy for me. And it's hard because I have feelings for this guy. I do have aesthetic attraction. I do have some romantic attraction. And part of me has been thinking for a long time, for weeks, about this guy. Oh, it's so, he's just downstairs. It'd be so good to cuddle him now. And I got asked to do that by him, but I didn't do it because I want that in a dating scenario or relationship. I don't just want it with a neighbour who's not even committed to me in any way. Do you know what I mean? And who can't make me happy. And otherwise it ends up being something casual and shit, excuse my language, right? And I wrote down some more red flags. What did I write in my diary? Oh, yes. Right. So genuine care is missing, right? He's easily swayed by others. Disorganized, I said that, but there was a major one, right? A major one. So at the end, right, when I said, like, I said to him, like, I think you need to get some sleep because you've got work today. I haven't, but I'm usually awake. And I did say, like, I'm a bouncing bunny at this time of night. You're not. I said, this is like, we have different lifestyles as well. So different personality types and different lifestyles. And then for a while he wanted me to stay. So I stayed and talked. And then at the end, right, he was begging, he was putting pressure on me to cuddle him and to well, first of all, he's like, oh, well, do you want to stay here? And I'm like, no, if I'm going to sleep, I'll go back in my own flat and sleep. He goes, oh, I can sleep in the lounge and you can sleep on my bed. I'm like, no, I go back to my own flat. So that was weird. So I don't know if that was just a ploy to get me to stay there so that he'd just come into bed with me and cuddle me. And that can be like, that can be a tactic to get a girl to stay in the home, give the girl a reason to stay so the guy can get what he wants. I'm not saying this guy's complete bad, but these things are not good. These are red flags. And so it's hard because I've been seeing him as a neighbour and him doing acts of service for me. And now I'm seeing the reality behind closed doors with him, right? His bathroom was not tidy either. I know most guys don't live in hygienic conditions in the bathroom, but that matters. Everywhere else is quite pristine and looks really tidy and immaculate. And then all of a sudden you go to the bathroom, it's complete contrast. Completely contrast. Like the opposite. So that's quite important to note, because it's important to note the differences between the appearance where most people see and the personal hygiene area and that type of thing where other people might go to the toilet, right? Don't forget, people don't go to the toilet like I do. I did. Won't go once. And so, you know what I mean? It's a contrast between appearances and behind the scenes. If there's a massive contrast there, it might mean that they're quite for appearances. This is a more minor thing to just note rather than a red flag, but it might indicate a possible red flag, because it might indicate that, you know, they're more concerned with image than they are like people knowing the reality of them, if you know what I mean. So it's just something to bear in mind, probably like an amber flag, that is. Anyway. But, you know, the worst thing was at the end when he was pressurizing me to actually cuddle me. He goes, oh, can you cuddle me? And I'm like, no, it's not appropriate because we're not dating and I'm not in a relationship with you. And he's like, please. He's like, oh, come on. And I know I've been in those situations with guys where they've pressurized me into that. I've given in the past. And because I am attracted to him, because I thought that in my mind, oh, it'd be nice to cuddle him, that was hard to say no to him, but I had to because he was pressurizing me, which he shouldn't be doing. This is a major red flag. If any guy's putting pressure on a woman to do, you know, he wasn't pressurizing me for sex, but he was pressurizing for me to stay with him and cuddle him. You know what I mean? But a guy who's pressurizing me to do that could have ended up pressurizing me to do something else, right? And he was putting pressure on me, and I was saying no. And then I said, I don't think that's a good idea. And so he's going, oh, come on. You know, the words come on. Some foreign guys can get quite strong when they start saying, come on. And I'm like thinking, this is really not good, Sandra. I thought, you've been in this position. I was in this position with my ex in 2024, who really broke my heart. And I'm like, this is not good. He's pressurizing you, even though you're attracted to this guy. You like him in the attraction sense. This is not good. This is a huge red flag. So I had to say to him, like, no, I don't think this is a good idea, and I am going to go. I think I should go. So he, in the end, gave in to me going. And then he's like, oh, do you want me to come with you to the door? I said, what? To watch me tie my shoelaces? I said, what are you going to do? Help me tie my shoelaces or something? So anyway, he got out of the bed, and then I tied my shoelaces, and I said, I'll give you a hug. I didn't mind hugging him. So we stood up, and he was hugging me for quite a while. And then I went back to my home and took the rubbish out and carried on. But there was a message from him I got, which was, I was thinking, where's my phone? I'm talking on my phone. I always do that. There's a message from him that said, oh, sorry for wasting your time. I wish you the best of luck, and have a good night. And so I thought it sounded a bit like an end text, like I'm never going to hear from him again. Bear in mind, this guy lives in the same block of flats as me, so it's quite awkward. So tonight, last night now, because I guess it's gone over midnight, I went to the shop across the road, like Tesco's as a shop across the road. And in my head, I'm there thinking, I wonder where his window looks out of. Does it look out the back of the flats? If so, would he see me go out and across the road to the shop? I wonder if I'd see him in there. That was just a fleeting thought, right? I've never seen him in there ever. I have to say that, right? So I had to, I was going to cross the road, but I couldn't do, so I had to go further up because it was too dangerous to cross there. So I was in Tesco Metro it is. And I was busy looking through peaches, and all of a sudden, I was really like trying to pick the best ones, right? So I was buried in it. I was really focusing, and all of a sudden, I hear this person go, hi, and I went, oh my God, like that, because it was him. And he's like, oh, hi, how are you? With his beaming smile and his really nice jacket that makes me really super attracted to him. So it was really hard. And he's like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. And part of me was feeling really sad because it's hard, because obviously the potential, you kind of breathe the potential of what you thought you could have with the person, realizing that they're no good for you because they've given you loads of red flags. But it's hard because I know I'm still super attracted to this guy, right? So I said good, but part of me was feeling like been sad. But I am good in the sense that I had my boundaries. I stood my ground. I saw the red flags for what they are this time, rather than overlooking them and like kind of overriding my nervous system. Instead, I listened to my nervous system, and I didn't stay there to cuddle him and give him what he wants. I basically rejected his offer of boyfriend, girlfriend, and to cuddle him with no commitment and everything like that, right? And I said why we wouldn't be suitable for a relationship. But there he was in the shop, and I literally jumped because I said, I didn't expect to see you in here. Why are you here? And he goes, oh yeah, I'm going to work. He goes, I went home at 6, had a couple of hours sleep, and I'm going to work at 10 because he has a customer that's going away for his job. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, you're busy, you're always busy. He goes, yeah. And he goes, oh, how are you? And I said, I'm good. He goes, oh, you're good. You're all right, are you? And I said, yeah, I'm good, thanks. Because part of me felt like it was a bit, I don't lie, and so when I was thinking that, I was feeling like I don't want to be dishonest, but I'm not totally all right. I'm not totally good, but I was just trying to focus on the fact, well, there's some good. Is the fact that, you did have boundaries in place with this guy, Sandra. You did listen to all the red flags. You did see them for what they were. And logically, you've made the right decision by turning this guy down. But it's still so hard because I am super attracted to him. It's convenient that he's downstairs. And it's very, very hard when I see him again. Because it's like, oh my God. And it's hard because it's like, you grieve the potential you thought you might have with them, because obviously before these red flags, I felt he had some attraction to me. Probably I had some attraction to him, but I thought he's probably a different personality type to me. But when I talked to him about it, he confirmed that he's lazy with making plans. He's not that type of guy. So he just confirmed what I thought about him. So yeah, it's just. Do you know what I mean? That was really, really hard. And so I wanted to bring all these things up. So if we go back to the scenario again, what were the red flags? 1, the guy inviting me in the middle of, like, late at night, nearly midnight, into his room. And then 2, like, into his bedroom. Like, 3, wanting me to cuddle him when he was lonely. It's like, it's about him at the moment. 4, he wanted me to immediately go there, which I couldn't anyway, because I put boundary in place. I'm eating first. I can't, like, speak to you if I'm not taking care of myself. 5, he led me to believe that he was stressed about something, not that it had anything to do with me and that he was attracted to me. I thought it was to do with his work or something, although he didn't actually say it was for his work. But he just says, oh, I've had a really, really stressful week and I really need to talk to someone about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so he got me under there a little bit of under false pretenses, really. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously the fact he didn't ask me any questions much about myself is red flag. He wasn't really curious about me as a person, red flag. Talking mostly about himself. And when I shared stuff about myself, instead of him being more curious about me as a person, he immediately, when I said about, I have a YouTube channel with over 2,300,000 views and I talk about asexuality and what he was, he immediately started saying, oh, yeah, you can promote like my place where I work to get more sales. And that is really bad. That is very selfish of him. That is very self-centered. It's very transactional. There's no love or care there for me whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? The fact he's easily swayed by his friends, that's another bad thing. Red flag, you know, if he's easily swayed by that, what happens if other women ever come and approach him and stuff like that? I don't think he's experienced with women. He's mostly just, I've never seen him with another woman in the time I've seen him working in here. But I said I haven't even been in a guy's flat for years. He goes, oh, I haven't like had a woman here either, like in a flat for years. Well, I don't know when it was, but do you know what I mean? He also said that if he had the choice to go back, he would go back and be with his family, but you know, he can't go back there because it's too dangerous a country he comes from. So, but you know what I mean? But he said, you never know, things might change. And I said, well, that'd be no good, would it? If you got into a relationship and then you were off back in your country. It's like, yeah, but I can't ever go back into my country. I said, but you've already said it might change in like 10 or 13 years time, and it might. So what if it did then? And then what would you do? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no security there. And so, you know, all these are like really bad red flags. And the pressure at the end for me to cuddle him is like, oh, cuddle me, please, please. And then it's like, come on, come on. That's quite coercive, you know? And so these are really huge red flags. There's a contrast between the difference of seeing him around and about as a neighbour and saying hi, and then obviously seeing the reality behind the scenes. But I have noticed in text messages, it's usually me asking him more questions about himself than he asks about me. So I have clocked that as well. Do you know what I mean? I clocked that before, but I thought as it's more private and we're focused and have the attention on each other and it's in an enclosed environment and lots of the time he's rushing around, I thought I'd give him the chance to see if he really wants to get to know me. But no, all he had in his head really was he's lonely, he wants to cuddle, blah, blah, blah. And it was mostly about him and what he wants. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it's just very, very difficult these days to like, do you know what I mean? To have a serious, committed, healthy relationship. There are so many people out there that don't realize they need to learn healthy relationship skills for dating and relationships. They need to be intentional as well. Like I said this in a vlog earlier. One of the things you must focus on is intentionality in dating and relationships. People are not intentional. And I see so many guys, I mean, it can be any gender, right? I'm just saying guys because I don't go after women. I'm not interested in women. But I see so many guys, they put time, energy and effort into loads of other things. The gym, their mates, like personal grooming, maybe for some guys. Like, look at the clothes, right, they wear. The job they do. But when it comes to relationships, it's like all they want to do is tick the box. Oh, I've got a woman. Oh, I've got a guy, or whatever gender you're interested in, right? And they just tick it like a tick box and carry on with their life, right? Every time and any time you get into a relationship, you need to maintain and sustain it in a healthy way. You can't just tick a box and expect that relationship to survive, thrive, and be healthy. It's an absolutely inconceivable concept. When you go to the gym, if you don't go regularly, your body hurts. If you don't do regular exercise, your body hurts. If you overdo your exercise, your body hurts, right? You injure yourself, right? But if you're not going to the gym regularly, you get out of shape. If you don't water plants, they die off. If you don't maintain connections with friends, if you want a close friendship, friendships die. They get some friends, you can go back to and feel like you've known them for years and pick up where you left off. But you can't have that true, deep, intimate friendship that's like that you can rely on. Reliability is very important. You can't rely on someone who doesn't speak to you for months. You can rely that maybe they'll still be your friend, but they're not like a close friend that you need in the moment when all hell breaks loose. Do you know what I mean? And so it's very important that do you know what I mean, that you understand that you need to develop relationship skills. Like, a lot of guys are there thinking they're lonely, and there is a loneliness epidemic, really. I don't have any in-person friends, so it would have been very easy for me yesterday to just give into him, because I am attracted to him, and cuddle him that way, because I don't get that much physical contact myself, right? But I did give him a hug before I left, which was a long hug, but do you know what I mean? Like, I was okay doing that, but I just, I had to put these boundaries in place with him, and I had to be very like assertive, and I had to say no. And usually in the past I would have given into that pressure with a guy, especially a guy I'm attracted to, but I didn't. So I'm really proud of myself, but it hurts. It hurts knowing that a potential possibility of dating relationship scenario with him is not, it hurts in the sense that it's not possible. Because it's like, you always have the potential there, but it's not possible, not as he currently is, and I don't think it ever will be. He likes his beard, and I really can't be with a guy who's got a beard in terms of like the longevity of relationship, because I need someone who's clean shaven for kissing. And I did tell him, I said, in a relationship I like to be kissing all the time, holding hands all the time, cuddling all the time, including in public, on buses, on trains, or wherever I'm going. Even in supermarkets I like to hold hands. I said, I don't even know if you'll like that at all. I said, and I was with an Afghanistan guy, had a boyfriend years ago. He was Afghanistan. He wouldn't even hold my hand in public, and I just couldn't be in a relationship with him anymore. I can't be like that with someone. So I said, that's the type of person I am. I said, I love kissing for long periods of time. I'm hyper romantic and hyper kisser, and that's the type, I want a guy who's really into that as well. Do you know what I mean? I said, so I just don't think we're compatible. And as you are, you've got like a young version of ideal relationship, but I need someone who's going to make me happy and match my needs, and you can't do that. And I think it's very important and mature when you have that type of conversation and say, like, as much as I'm attracted to him, we're not actually compatible. That's it. I didn't say I'm really, really attracted to him. I said, I do like you. But I said, it doesn't matter about it, like, even if I have some attraction, it doesn't matter because we're not compatible. Where's your successful relationship? Name one. I haven't said that I've got a successful relationship. So the most successful relationship I have is with myself, which is the most important relationship. Well, it does count. I'm the one who says what's on this channel. The most important relationship you can have ever is with yourself, not with other people. If you're not strong in and of yourself, then you shouldn't even be in a relationship with anyone else. Because you need to know your own mind, know your own worth, know your own value, and to be able to walk away from people like that who have red flagged, right? It's only because I'm really strong with the relationship with myself, and I've worked on that a lot, that I'm able to say no to a guy who's really aesthetically good looking to me, who I have aesthetic and romantic attraction for. Do you know what I mean? So I'm very open and honest about that, and that is very, very important. So the best relationship you can have is with yourself. If you're not stable, I'm more stable now than I've ever been in the relationship with myself, because I spend the most time with myself, and I don't have toxic friends anymore. I left them behind, even going to none, because I'd rather be on my own and be a stable and secure base for myself than be with toxic people. Yes, that means starting over again from scratch, but it's good. It's very, very important. So as I said earlier in this live stream, I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. Right? Matthew Hussey is the world's top dating relationship love coach, one of the best in the whole entire world. I'm in his third year now in his Love Life Club that I pay privately for. So I'm learning a lot from him, as well as being on the dating scene for over 10 years myself. So I've been in the dating scene for over 10 years. Then, I'm learning a lot about dating, particularly relationships from Matthew, who does know what he's talking about. He's got a very successful marriage with his wife. They've just had a baby, I think they're 5 or 6 months old. So I admit that unsuccessful relationships I've had, which is why I'm trying to become more healthy myself, so I don't make the same mistakes being with the same guys. I still keep getting attracted to the wrong guys, because when you're attracted to the wrong person, it's often about what you've been used to in the past, in childhood and stuff, the way that you related to your caregivers or peers, and also different types of relationships as well. So it means we have to work on ourselves before we get into a relationship with anyone, ideally, and we have to continuously work on ourselves. And sometimes we have unsuccessful relationships to teach us what not to go for again. And we have to keep having them until we understand what's wrong for us before we get it right. And it is hard. It is very, very hard. What I did was not easy for me to do, right? Now I have the grief of that I can't be in a relationship with a guy who I have attraction for, who I thought it might go somewhere eventually with him, like dating relationship scenario. But I can't do that because of all the red flags I've mentioned, and because he's not the right guy for me. As it currently stands, he's not the right guy at all for me. He's got a completely different personality type that would just stress me out and make me anxious all the time. And you can't be in a relationship like that with someone like that. I'm not saying it's like that with everyone. I said, you need to find a girl that's like what you like. Do you know what I mean? That's laid back and all that. I said, but I do think quite a few girls will like you to make plans with them. Do you know what I mean? I do think that's something other girls will want as well. The relationship you have with yourself is the very most important. That's your stable foundation. It's only because I've let go of the toxic people in my life last year, and I've left behind that, and I have been having no in-person friends, that I'm becoming stronger. So what was really bad, and it's not great, but I'm much more used to it now. I'm much more used to saying I don't have in-person friends. I still go out. I still go to meetups. I still, talk to people. I still talk to some people I talk to, at these meetups. I see them again and again. So it's not like I've got no one to ever speak to when I go out. You know what I mean? There's a person who speaks to me online as well. They've been speaking to me since before Christmas, but I don't call them a friend because they don't call me a friend. But they act like a friend a lot of the time, in the terms of the way they care, and they message me sometimes going, I just thought I'd check in with you. But they message me often multiple times a week, so it's nice. They do actually live in the UK, but I have never met them in person before. So I met them through business actually, but we just end up chatting about a lot of personal stuff and to do with business as well. Do you know what I mean? So I have unseen disabilities, and so does she have that as well. So it's quite interesting and caring, so that's nice. But do you know what I mean? I'm very used to not having in-person friends anymore. I've got more and more used to it, and I used to be really sad about it, and I used to be upset a lot. But because I'm spending all this time with myself, because I'm becoming more and more securely attached to myself, if you like, it's actually a blessing, because I'm able to more logically see now when my peace is being disturbed from people who are red flagging me, inconsistent behavior, not really taking an interest in me, thinking about themselves a lot, not really getting to know me as a person. Do you know what I mean? Because it's only because of the relationships and friendships that haven't been good for me that I'm able to now see what I really want. And I guess that's part of life and learning. We have to experience what we don't want and keep experiencing before our subconscious finally rewires itself to think, in the moment, this is a red flag, tick. This is a red flag, tick. This is a red flag, tick. And it's okay, you have to protect your own peace and your own space now, Sam, because if I had stayed and cuddled him, probably would have ended up kissing him, and it would have felt really good probably in that moment, right? But afterwards I would have felt rubbish, because he probably wouldn't be texting me afterwards. He'd be inconsistent again. He'd think he can just do that whenever he wants with no commitment. and he's not really that interested in me as a person. It's more about just looks and attraction for him. And so I would be worse off. I would be in short term, in short term, in the moment, I would have felt good before he started pressurizing me. But later on, afterwards, I would have felt bad because I'd be like, where do I stand now with him? What's going on? I mean, he did suggest boyfriend and girlfriend, but he doesn't really understand what that means. He doesn't really understand what commitment means and time, energy, and effort you have to invest. It's just like, I think he was just saying that as a way to get me to cuddle him and basically have that type of intimacy when he wanted, not because he really wants something serious and committed and long lasting, and he really knows how to have a relationship, because he doesn't. I don't think he's had I haven't asked him about his past, but he doesn't come across that he's that experienced with girls. When he said he's shy and he took ages to even, I had to prize it out of him that he was attracted to me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? He goes, I was too shy. So I don't think he's, and I'm just seeing with guys all the time. So I don't think he's that experienced with women. And he's not really experienced with relationships either. But that is, it's good in a way if you've got someone who's very attentive and who very wants to learn how you like to be treated and stuff like that. But if they're not that type of person that wants commitment, dedication, wants to devote time, book dates and everything like that, if they're not that type of person, it's not going to be good. Someone's asking, what's my name? Sandra. Yeah, so you have to use discernment. So I felt good because I protected myself. I put boundaries in place. I said no when it'd be so easy for me to have said yes. It was hard to resist him in the sense I was attracted to him, but it was easy to resist him in the fact that there was loads of red flags. And I'm like, you've ignored red flags before. You've overlooked them, Sandra. You park them in your head and overlook them for the pure fact you're attracted to a guy in the past. And where did that come from, and what happened? And it ends up in disaster with my heart broken really badly. I don't want that again. So do you have any advice for a guy who has no experience in relationship? A guy who has no experience in relationship, well, I think he needs to learn relationship skills from an actual relationship coach. So I was explaining that I am in Matthew Hussey. He's one of the world's top dating and relationship coaches, and he has men in his Love Life Club. I'm in his Love Life Club. So I paid privately for his Love Life Club. And he has him and his brother coaching, and he's been coaching for over 18 years. He's very good at what he does. Yes, Matthew Hussey, that's right, that's his name, yes. So I would recommend joining his Love Life Club. I'm in his Love Life Club. But it's only for people who want to really work on themselves and get relationship skills and figure out what they want and know how to spot red flags and everything like this. So I'd really recommend watching his channel. But his channel is not as good as his coaching. His Love Life coaching program is far better than his channel. In his channel, he has to do more click it, I don't want to call it clickbait because I don't think it is. It's not just clickbait. It's not like he's just doing it to get clicks, but the titles have to be catchy and what a lot of popularity is. But he's much better in person in his Love Life Club. He gives you serious advice. He's always giving advice in chat, or he's on video every multiple times a month, and there's loads of courses in there by other experts and everything, and it's really, really good. So I would definitely say to if you can join his club. I pay yearly because it's cheaper yearly, and he's really, really good. I find him excellent. He's not what everyone likes, but I really like him. And I know another person who I'm friends with on Facebook. She actually has a loving husband now, and she did his retreat. So you'll check his stuff out. Yeah, he's really good. He's got better with age because he's more mature now. So his latest stuff is much better than years ago because he has made mistakes in his past. He openly admits in his book. So he's got a love life book. You can find his book. He's got one called Get the Guy, which is for women years ago, but he's got a love life book, and it's really, really good. So I recommend getting his book, the love life book. It's really good. And you know what I mean? Do you have kids? No, I don't have kids and don't want them. I'm single happily at the moment until I find the right guy for me, not a guy who gives me red flags. And in terms of also, you know what I mean? So I'm saying he's better behind the scenes, but his latest stuff is the best stuff, like in the last few years. I've been in his Love Life Club. This is the third year now I'm going into it. So I'm more, you know, like he's very good at what he does now because he admits the mistakes he made, the unhealthy behaviors he has. He's always working on himself. He's got a loving wife now. But he's you know, like he used to be more ego driven years ago. He admits it, but now he's much better. So I think it's much better to learn from someone who's actually got lived experience of making mistakes himself, and as a guy as well, and learning from them and dropping his ego to actually find true long lasting love. Do you know what I mean? Who's changed himself. I think it's very, very important. And he's a much healthier guy. There's some dating coaches out there that are really bad. They're teaching guys all the wrong things about how to really be horrible to women, how to hook women and stuff like this for sex, and don't listen to them. It's a lot of them are misogynistic, and they're just out to get money from guys who take pleasure in hooking up with women and stuff just to get their ego fixed. It's not what you want. You don't want to be working from a place of ego, right? And in terms of also for guys who don't have any relationship experience, you know, like I said, watch his channel because he gives really good relationship advice. But you have to treat relationships like a full-time job. So if you have no experience, you have to understand that if you are getting into a relationship, it's easy to get into a relationship. It's easy to have a date. The hardest part ever is to have a healthy relationship with someone. A healthy one. It's easy to have a date, get into a relationship. It's hard to maintain and sustain that in a healthy way. It's the most hardest thing ever. And you should treat a relationship like another full-time job, right? You can't just tick a box and say you've got a relationship and then that's it. So many guys are just looking to do that. Easy to get into a relationship hasn't been my experience. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, do you know what I mean? Like I was saying on this video, this guy, he has to try being boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, but he's got no experience, clearly, I don't think, or at least not of a healthy relationship. So if I talk to him bluntly and directly about my experience, he really liked it. So years ago, and I still have, you know, I have the romantic part of me that still likes this idea, but years ago I like, you know, it's just a case of kissing, cuddling. You're attracted to me. I'm attracted to you. Let's get into a relationship. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. This is like the young, kind of like romantic, idealized version of a relationship, right? Where you see it in movies and you don't see what happens after that. You just see they finally got together. The attraction was there. And finally, they got together. They had a date. They had this wonderful kiss and they're living happily ever after, right? Often in real life, it's not the case. It's not the case unless you work on things. And you have to have open, honest communication about how you feel. Because if you don't tell the person if something's wrong in the relationship and the connection, you end up building up resentment for each other and you end up avoiding things, and it causes more conflict down the road. It causes people to split up because people that split up out of the blue have often been keeping things to themselves. They've been keeping secrets. They've been holding how they really feel about things inside. And then that's when the relationship just gets worse and worse and worse to eventually someone just leaves unexpectedly and you get ghosted or whatever, or it ends, they go off with someone else or whatever, because they haven't actually explained what the problems is in the relationship. Like, so when you talk about relationship problems, you have to mention the behavior that someone does. So, for example, when you did this, I felt neglected. Or when you didn't do that, I felt like you didn't value my time. So, for example, with the guy I'm talking about, like I did mention to him, I said, like, punctuality and timekeeping is so important to me. And I said, and because I said we're different personality types, and I said, you know, like you're laid back and everything. I like punctuality, a person to be there on time or before time. And I said, you know what I mean? I need everything organized and stuff like that. So obviously there's some exceptions, but in general, right? And I said, when he came to take me shopping once, but he was late. He was like 6 minutes late. I said, but I was anxious because I didn't know if you were coming or not. I was going, I do work at night. So I said, I didn't know whether to do my work or not. So I was looking out for your message. I said, what you could have done is text me before you leave your friend and told me you're going to be a bit late, because you said you were going to be there at 9 and you weren't. And I said, you know, and I didn't know if you're going to show up or not. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know whether to start my work, because obviously if I start a big project or whatever and I'm like focused on that, I can't then, like, to break off or to constantly look at my phone for when you're actually going to turn up. It just distracts me from my work. And I said in a relationship, I need a guy I'm gonna know where I stand with him all the time. Otherwise, if I'm busy looking for his message, I'm not doing work. Do you know what I mean? So I need a guy who's going to give me lots of communication. So you need to find out, like in relationships, some of the best advice I can give you is work out, like what does a healthy relationship look like to you? Obviously, what a healthy relationship look like to you may be a younger version rather than an older version. The more mature version is like, are we compatible? We might have attraction, but attraction does not equal compatibility. So you may be so super attracted to someone, but that doesn't mean to say that person's going to be healthy for you to spend the rest of your life with, for example. It means you're going after chemistry rather than after compatibility. So one of the biggest dating mistakes people have, including me, because even though I'm asexual, I still experience aesthetic and romantic attraction, which is like a chemical reaction as well, really, a lot inside, particularly romantic, obviously sexual attraction is chemical as well. So if a guy's like sexually attracted to me, I'm romantically and aesthetically attracted to him a lot, and then it's kind of like very seductive magnetic attraction, right? But, which is what I have a bit with this guy that I was talking about, but that doesn't mean to say you're compatible. So you can be so attracted to the person, but it can be the totally wrong person for you to be in a relationship with. You should be in a relationship with someone who makes you feel comfortable, who you can talk to about anything and everything that's on your mind, who you can bring up difficult conversations with, who you can share what isn't feeling good to you. Do not attack the person, but just talk about the behavior if you don't like it. Someone you can relax and feel. So a healthy relationship is someone you can feel safe and secure with, who's a strong base for you, not someone who's disorganized, chaotic, doesn't know what they want in their life, is up and down the whole time, can't make plans. Basically, this guy, he's good at his job and he's good at going to the gym, but after that his life is chaotic, it's disorganized. He's admitted that. He's like, I'm lazy outside of work and gym, I'm lazy. So the best advice I can give you is to treat your relationship like a full-time job and put as much time, energy and effort into it as you would do other areas of your life that you really want to excel in. If you're really good at a job, then put as much time, energy and effort into a relationship. If you really excel at the gym, put as much time, energy and effort into the relationship. It's like a garden. It has to be watered in order for it to continue to be flowered. If you need to strengthen your body, you need consistent strength training. You stop training those muscles, stop working out, it goes to pot, it goes to hell and back or whatever. It doesn't feel good. It starts to feel rubbish. It starts to go downhill, right? This is what happens in a relationship. Loads of guys just do a tick box exercise. I've got the relationship now. And then they take their woman, or whatever gender into, I'll just say woman in this case, they take their woman for granted. They think she'll always be there for him. She that ends up thinking, oh, she'll be there for me. I've ticked that box now. I don't want to need to do any effort. I've got her now. All the effort's in the getting, and she can just be by my side and listen to whatever I have to say and do whatever I want. That's not a healthy relationship, right? She isn't equal to you. Her time is equally valuable to yours. You should never put your time above hers, right? You should respect her time as much as you respect your own. You should respect her body as much as you respect your own, or more if you don't respect your body very much, right? You shouldn't put pressure on a girl either. Never pressurize her. If you want to kiss her, you can ask her for a kiss, so it's consensual. Like, make plans with her. Actually ask her out on a date. Nothing can happen unless you ask a girl on a date, right? She doesn't want to get straight into a relationship with you. She needs to date you first to see if you're compatible. Compatibility means in terms of lifestyle. Like, do your lifestyles go together? Do your hobbies and interests match or complement each other? Do your life goals match in terms of compatibility? So, for example, if you want to travel for a year and backpack all around the world, but she is really set in her home, she loves where she lives, she's got her friends, got her life, and she doesn't want to go traveling around the world, that's incompatibility. If your life goal is like, I'm going to spend 5 years in the UK, and then after 5 years I'm going to leave and I'm going to go to I don't know, I'm going to go to America to live, right? She's happy where she's living. She sees her whole future. Maybe she wants marriage and kids. I don't want marriage and kids, but maybe she wants marriage and kids. She's settled where she is. She wants a stable home base and she wants to be with you forever, right? You know, in 5 years' time, I'm going to America. I don't care. I need to go to America. That is incompatibility. Don't start that relationship because you're going to be heartbroken unless you decide, I now want to stay in this country with her. But if you do that at the expense of yourself or resentment, and it's something you feel you've never done and you wish you had, that is really bad as well. So compatibility, like I said, with this guy, we're two totally different personality types. You have to be complementary personality type, complementary attachment style type, complementary love languages as well. Like I love quality time, right? Quality time is my top love language. If you've never heard of love languages before, go to lovelanguages.com and there's a free quiz you should be able to do on there to find out what your love languages are, the order that you have them in. There's usually quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and acts of service. These are like the 5 love languages usually, right? And when you are showing someone how much you love them, you have to do it in their love language, not your own. But obviously you need to have the other person do it in your own love language for you to love them more and feel more loved by them. Do you know what I mean? So it gets quite tricky. So my top love language is quality time. I like quality time scheduled in with a guy, planned. I want him to do the planning. I don't want to be arranging dates all the time. I want him to take charge, going, I want to see you. Like, when are you free? When can we fit it together in our schedules? What day might be good for you this week? You know, a mutually convenient time. I don't want him to demand when I need to see him or only be available when he's available. Do you know what I mean? It's like the guy who lives downstairs, he gets Mondays and Wednesdays off. So if he's having a girlfriend, he'd want to see her probably Monday or Wednesday. But she might be working then, or have plans with friends, or be going out to events somewhere. So if he just thinks that every time he's in a relationship, he can see a girl when it's convenient to him, that's not going to work. He has to treat her time as valuable as his own. I said to him when I was with him, I said, I don't value your time any more than I value my own. I said, your time's important, my time's important. But you need to get personality type. Like, his personality is spontaneous, random, like, you know, outside of his work in gym, he's chaotic, disorganized, doesn't plan ahead, hasn't even got that mentality to do that type of thing, right? That really is, I've told him it's not suitable for me. I like to be with someone who's steadfast, strong, makes me feel secure, who I know I feel safe with. I'm not safe with someone who's up and down, inconsistent. Never be inconsistent with a girl, ever. Don't be inconsistent. Don't play games, right? If she wants an inconsistent guy, she wants something unhealthy that might make her feel the push and pull, but that's actually really unhealthy dynamics, right? So you need to show up. Don't be avoidant. Avoidance is one of the worst attachment styles you can be. Avoidance shut down in relationships. They don't want to discuss problems. They want to avoid conflict, and they stonewall and can gaslight and do lots of toxic things. You do not want to be like that. Look at narcissists and learn what a narcissist is and be the opposite of a narcissist. All the traits of a narcissist are really bad. Be the opposite of that. Work on and make sure you're the opposite of that. Take the whole list and think, I don't want to be a narcissist. What's the whole list of a narcissism? And go as far away from that as you can possibly go. You know, an unhealthy character trait, you want to be the opposite. So don't be inconsistent, which is an unhealthy red flag. Be consistent. If she's not consistent with you, that means she's red flagging you and she's not suitable for you. Gym and work is already a big consistency indicator. Can probably be transferable to relationships somehow. No, that's a problem. People assume that. People assume that if a guy's consistent in other areas of life, he'll automatically be consistent in relationships. That's not true, right? So this guy, who I've talked about in this video extensively, right? Because I'm in the Q&A part now at the end. This guy is consistent with the gym. He's consistent with his work. But he's consistent with work to the point that it works everything to him. He literally lives around the corner from his work. I live in the same block of flats as him. So his work is around the corner from me, right? And he is there at 10 o'clock tonight, right? I saw him in the shop. I said about this earlier, unexpectedly, right? He said he went to work till 6, then he went back home for a couple of hours sleep, and then he's back again at 10, doing his work again, because he's a manager, so he can just open the place whenever he wants to do the job he does, right? And so I'm protecting his identity by not saying what shop he works in, right? So that's very important. That's why I'm specifically not doing that. But he can open the place up whenever he wants and serve customers. So that's what he's doing. So he's so obsessed, and he's obsessed with money. Don't be so money focused in your life that you miss out on love and kindness and caring and compassion. Don't go after the girl that just makes you feel really excited in the moment. Go for the girl who is steadfast, strong, caring, loving, kind, consistent, persistent, who takes an interest in you, who is curious about you. Not the girl who wants you for your money and your status and your flash car, and you've got to be a certain height, and if you're not earning this money, you're out. She's off with another guy, right? Don't go for that girl. Go for a girl that may not be as exciting to be with in some ways, maybe, but you can create excitement with her. And another mistake guys make is they'll start thinking, after being with a girl for a while, some guys might think this has lost its spark, right? It's up to you as a guy to bring the spark back, to talk about ways of doing things differently together, to go out to different places together, build dates in the places that you've never been to before together. You need to keep the spark alive, right? So this guy is very good with the gym, and he's very good with his job, but he's not good in relationship. He admits, he says, I'm lazy outside of them. I'm lazy. It's his words, not mine. His words, not mine. But even my last long-term ex, he was so good at his job, but not relationship. Really bad relationship skills. Unhealthy relationship skills, right? You know, and it's like, as soon as he got me, it's like, tick, oh, I'm in a relationship now, that'll do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got her. This is not healthy. This is toxic. When a guy just thinks, oh, I've got a woman, I'll tick the box now, that means all he was after is just the relationship status, not actually what it means. Not actually the work it takes to maintain and sustain that healthily. I see so many guys feeling sorry for themselves, and they're like, oh, I can't get a woman. It's like, you're not even trying to learn relationship skills. You're just sat there complaining you haven't got a woman. There must be some reason, right? All of us have some unhealthy traits, right? All of us have things we can work on within ourselves to become better and better. You're never perfect. No one's perfect, right? You're always constantly should be working on yourself to learn relationship skills, to learn communication skills, to learn dating skills, to improve yourself, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, they say, because it's true, isn't it? And even in a relationship, it's hard. It's hard work, right? Some people prefer not to be in a relationship, right? But there are some benefits if you get the right person. You need to be thinking as a team, right? When you get into a relationship, it's a team effort. You're no longer on your own. You are equal team players, and that's how no one's better than each other. Obviously, in certain areas, one person might be better at certain things and the other person might be better at other things. But there shouldn't be any superiority. It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm better than this, than you are. Do you know what I mean? That's a superior stance. That's not good, right? But you can still combine skills. Like if one person really loves to cook and another person really loves to do the laundry, for example, and the other person hates to cook and the other person hates to do the laundry, you know, you could that's complementary skills. One person loves to cook, they're quite happy to do that. The other person loves to do laundry, and vice versa. They're not happy with it, so they've got matching skills. Do you know what I mean? And they are happy to admit that one's better at doing it, or they like it, enjoy it more. They might not be better at it, enjoy it more anyway. Do you know what I mean? But you shouldn't have anyone that's telling you, oh, I'm better than you, I'm more superior, you know, acting more superior than you. And do you know what I mean? No one don't put someone down, don't be dismissive. Listen, listen to a woman, take a deep interest in her, ask her lots of questions about herself, and share things about yourself. When you're in a relationship or even a friendship or dating scenario, you should be asking questions about the person, and you should be sharing parts of your life with them to open up and be vulnerable. This is how you build connection. This is how you build emotional connection. And women tend to love for emotional connection more than physicality. As an asexual person, asexuals tend to love through a much more emotional connection, period, whatever kind of gender they are. But if we're getting into gender stereotypes and physiology, you can look this up. I'm not an expert. I'm not a medical practitioner, just from my research of what I've seen. Usually guys love and experience attraction more through a physical means. Women experience it more through emotional connection needs. But women and guys have to come together. Do you know what I mean? So in order for a guy to understand a woman better, he needs to be happy to be in his more feminine essence sometimes. This means being vulnerable. This means being open. This means being okay to cry sometimes, being okay to share that he's sad, to share his emotions, to lean into them, not to be scared of them, to open up, right? Open up to the right person. You don't want to be opening up to a woman who's inconsistent, red flag behavior with you. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you need to open up a bit. You can't expect a woman to connect with you and give you a chance and feel anything. And she might be inconsistent with you if you're being inconsistent with her. So you have to have a degree of vulnerability, right? And open more and more up as you get to know her. But if someone's inconsistent and they're not treating you well, then you need to say something. Like, you know, like, I don't hear from you and it doesn't feel good. Like, I hear from you, like, a few messages, that feels great. And then all of a sudden I don't hear from you and that doesn't feel good to me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm looking for someone who has consistent communication with me, because that's what makes me feel good. Do you see what I'm saying? You're explaining the behavior that you want, right? But in order to emotionally connect with a woman's heart and actually feel something more than physicality for her, you need to open up and let her into your world and ask her questions about her world. Like, what makes her tick? Why does she think the way she does? Why does she do certain things in her life? Why does she like certain hobbies and interests? What is her mindset like? What is her soul like? What is her personality like? Don't just think of physicality if you're looking for something long-term and healthy. Right? I see so many guys feeling sorry for themselves. Like, oh, I can't get a woman. It's like, why can't you get a woman? Because you haven't worked on yourself. You're not working on relationship skills. You're not working on yourself. You're working on all the other aspects of your life, particularly a job, career, entrepreneurship. Why do you think so many entrepreneurs are great at working in their job, but a lot of them are not very good at relationships? Not all of them. Some of them are very good at relationships, right? I know people who are happily married in entrepreneurs, but as far as I know, they're happily married, because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But my point being is, there's a lot of people in the business world, they put so much focus, time, energy and effort on their business that they neglect other aspects of life, particularly a relationship. And that you should never neglect a woman and the relationship, because eventually she'll leave, even if it's years later. And what you had, you'll feel it, right? But too many people are focused on the wrong thing. Money, you can't take with you to the grave. When you die, it's better have someone who loves you. It's better have a loving, caring, committed woman who's there for you when you die than it is to have a bunch of money that you can't even take with you. Right? I'm not saying money's not important, but it shouldn't be the whole sole focus of your life, because it's not fulfilling. Like, coming home and having, even if they don't live together, just having a chat with a woman who loves you, who understands you, who's kind and caring, who's committed to you, who wants to listen to your problems, and you should be doing the same with her in a team relationship. A relationship is team. That's what it should be. You should want to have someone who's a team player with you, so you can build a team life together, and that you can equally talk to each other and feel like you've got each other's backs. You should be bestest friends, soulmates. Do you know what I mean? You should be team players together. If you can't find your actual soulmate, make someone your soulmate, if you know what I mean, by getting to know them better. Right? You can't have connection without these things. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be her just doing stuff for you, but you can do, you can change it around. Like, you should come together. So a woman, for example, should be able to do some shopping on her own. She shouldn't need the guy to lift everything for her. She should be able to, like, change hopefully a light bulb for herself and stuff like that. Do a few things around the house for herself, which traditionally is a man. A man should be able to, like, say, like, I'm really sad now about something, and show his emotional side. They need to come together so that they are understanding each other more and meet in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing more important, really, to women than feeling seen, heard, understood, valued, appreciated consistently, forever. That is a hard thing, isn't it? You come home from work, you're absolutely knackered, you're like, oh my God. And she's there needing your time and attention with you. She's there needing you. What are you going to do? You have to understand you've got another full-time job to go home to, right? It takes work, and every guy seems to think, oh, I'll put all this time, energy and effort into work, I'll put time into the gym, I'll put time into growing my business, and they really neglect learning relationship skills. You're not born with relationship skills. You're not born with dating skills. Obviously coming here, I have got some videos on relationships and dating as well. mostly in my live streams, so it's good to check them out. I've got Asexualise dating channel where I dissect like people's profiles. So it's Asexualise, the same first name as this dating, but it's down on my homepage. It's got a channel. There's only a very few subscribers on there because I'm mostly on this channel. But what I tend to do on that channel is go to Badoo, for example, dating site, because I've been dating for so long, online dating. They gave me a free premium account, and I dissect guys' profiles because I'm only looking at guys. So I'm looking at guys that I see and saying what's bad and good about them. So you have to be consistent, right? So, for example, I saw a guy in the last 24 hours. I looked on there, and there's a guy who says looking to date, right? But yet in his bio is all about relationship and what he values in a relationship. That is inconsistency. He's saying he wants to date, but yet he's talking all about relationship. They don't match. They don't add up. They contradict themselves, meaning he's not being genuine. And I think some of it was written by AI, because I can tell the middle bit, I think, right? Because it's not the way a person usually speaks. It's got dots in it, which is clearly usually AI, right? So don't use AI. You can use AI if you really want to help you, but don't let AI write it for you. It's too obvious, right? So what else is your question? I wonder for what extent the guy is just modeling parents' behavior. Yes. So a lot of people get that unhealthy behaviors, any gender, not just guys, females, whatever gender. We get unhealthy behaviors a lot of the time from parents, caregivers, because obviously some people didn't have their parents looking after them, they had grandparents looking after them or whatever. But it's often from caregivers, right? And if they've got unhealthy behaviors, you usually take on those unhealthy behaviors, or you have unhealthy behavior yourself based on how they treat you. For example, if you've got deep emotional neglect from your parents, you then become more usually of a people pleaser. You usually abandon yourself in relationships, think your needs don't matter, feel like you're unworthy, and then you have people taking advantage of you. You have toxic guys who are looking out for someone who, is vulnerable, who needs reassurance, who isn't strong in themselves, who wants to be, acts more subservient to them, wants to please them at their own expense, and doesn't really have any boundaries, right? So that is a result of often of emotional neglect, for example. If you've got some parents and you see one parent hitting a parent, I don't have anything like this, like this. I don't, my parents aren't violent, but if a kid sees parents being violent, it can mean that the boy, for example, ends up imitating the dad and being violent and aggressive towards his future partner. Can be, or it could go the opposite way. You could choose to not be like your parents. When you're older, you have a choice and decision to make. If you've seen unhealthy behaviors, you actually learn a lot of unhealthy behaviors. A lot of people in family dynamics are unhealthy. Most of us, I still have things that aren't as healthy as they could be. I have still got work to do on myself. That's why I'm the Love Life Club. I hold my hands up. But it's a journey. Everyone will be working on themselves. Everyone who wants healthiness is always working on themselves. You cannot be really 100% healthy if you have, for example, an insecure attachment style, or you have old wounds and old patterns that keep coming up now and again. It's like you never be. I don't think anyone's 100% healthy. You know what I mean? Because things have affected you in your life, but you have to just take steps to become better and better and better, and learn from your mistakes and learn how to be a better person. But yes, a lot of it can come from if you've got avoidant parents, you can either become avoidant yourself, but or you can feel neglected. Do you know what I mean? But also, if parents are screaming at each other, you can think, well, in a relationship, that's normal. That's how you solve problems, by screaming at each other. It's not, right? That's not a healthy relationship. You should be able to go and say, look, I'm not feeling great at the moment, and can I tell you why? And have you got time to listen to what I have to say? And they should be wanting to solve that with you. So in order to overcome conflict, you should be having someone who wants to solve that with you, like it's a team. So the problem is more the issue is with the problem that needs fixing between you, rather than the person itself, which is really hard. I haven't been in a situation really so much where I've been able to have a person to work on with that, because that's something I've learned afterwards in the Love Life Club, that if you've got a problem, you need to more attack the problem, not the person. Attack it together, oh, this is a problem. So nowadays when I'm talking, if I've got a problem, a difficulty in a friendship or whatever, and I'm not in a relationship, I haven't been in a relationship for some time, but if I've got a difficulty, I usually would try and say like, or if I foresee something's going to be difficult, I usually say to the person like, how can we work this out together? So for example, like with that guy, like I just think we're two opposite personalities, so we couldn't make that work. But if we were to make it work, it would require a lot of like, what do you need to be happy? What do I need to be happy? And can it be achieved? But if it can't be achieved where we're both happy and both our needs are met, then it's not going to work. I hope that makes sense. So in the chat, they're saying, oh my God, yes, my parents constant scream at each other and it's not pleasant, makes relationships seem more like more work than it's worth. But that isn't work they're doing, unfortunately. Screaming at each other isn't work. They're not doing the work. They're not doing the inner work needed to have healthy communication and a healthy relationship. That's the problem. They're not doing the work. So by not doing the work and by not trying to change their patterns of behavior, then they're actually causing more problems in the relationship. And when people are unhealthy, the more unhealthy you are, the less you've worked on yourself, especially two people, right? You really, in a relationship, you both need to have been working on yourself, on your wounds, on your patterns, on past conflicts, on past difficulties. You need to be working on them individually before you get into a relationship with someone. Then you need to be working on them separately, but together as a team as well. That's the problem. And people just, if you've got two people that are just totally unhealthy, or one person that's more unhealthy than the other, then there's going to be an imbalance there. Do you know what I mean? It's either going to be really toxic for you both or imbalanced. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know a lot more stuff now because I've learned it. I'm still learning constantly. I've got so much to learn. I know with all the stuff, the shit, trauma, excuse my language, that's happened in my life, I've got so much to work through. It's not an overnight fix. It really isn't. It's deep work I have to keep doing on myself. Surely there's healthy ways to deal with it. Yeah, so there is healthier ways to deal with it. And you know, your parents probably like acting like that and think there's nothing wrong with it because they've got used to it. But it's not good. And there is healthy ways. The healthier way is to say, just to say, like, when you did this thing, it made me feel neglected, or it made me feel left out, or it made me feel uncared for, it made me feel unloved. And then the other person would say, I'm sorry I did that and made you feel that way. And so how can I move forward with you in a way that helps you to feel more loved or more like taken care of? And you have to have constantly backwards and forwards communication. So like you're always like managing the relationship together and working on it like a piece of work in that way. But it's a healthy work. It is hard work though. Do you know what I mean? But shouting and screaming at each other is not the answer. It might just be that your parents are just too toxic to actually be together, but they love each other and they're attracted to each other. That might be the problem. But attraction is not the same as compatibility. And like I was going on about earlier in this video, which I've been talking about a lot, is that you need to have compatibility. And most people get into relationships and are based on attraction, not compatibility. And that's why they end up shouting and arguing a lot. Do you know what I mean? Because they both have different ideologies. You should, in the beginning, talk about expectations, talk about your wants, your needs together, both together talking. And if those needs are not compatible, if it's too much changing, you don't want to be too much changing yourself, then it's not good. Like with the guy, I showed him that even if I like him, which I do, that we're not compatible because the way things are at the moment, right? He likes to be the guy that I've been talking about in this video at the beginning. He likes to be laid back. He likes to be like outside his work and gym. He's chaotic. He's disorganized. He doesn't do time management stuff. He doesn't like to be on time. He likes to be casual, laid back, do random stuff, be spontaneous. That's the total opposite to me, right? I know that if he tries to be more like me, it needs probably for this freedom of randomness or whatever, and the chaos that he likes is probably not going to be good for him in his current mindset, because he likes being that way. Clearly, he's used to it. He's got a pattern of behavior like it. He clearly thinks it's fine to be like that. And I can't and wouldn't want to make him be something he's not, right? Equally, I love being organised. I like a guy who's really good with timekeeping, who plans dates in advance, always has something on the calendar with me, who's curious about me, who I don't have to worry about. I know I've always got time allocated with him. He's got my back. We're together as a team, right? But I don't want to change and become more laid back and spontaneous and that, because I don't like that. It's not good for my anxiety. So we're just not compatible in the way we are, right? I know probably no matter what girl he was with, he will have to make some changes to himself. He cannot be the type of person that never plans dates with the girl, really, unless she's fine to just be a doormat, basically, and wherever he wants her, she'll be there. But a woman who actually has some respect for herself, who values herself, will not want to be with a guy who is not making plans with her, who lets her down, who's not consistent with her. Probably I'm not the right girl for him. Probably he's just attracted to me. If he was in love with me and really cared about me as a person, he probably would have some different behaviors, right? And he said himself, I need to change myself. And I said, don't change for me, never change for anyone. He goes, no, I change for myself. So that's up to him, right? I don't stay with him. I don't wait for him. I don't wait for him to change. If he happens to change years later, that's fine. But usually when a person changes, they don't change and go back to the person they originally had the incompatibility with. They go off with someone else and they change. When someone sparks their interest and when someone really makes them feel something more than just attraction, that's when they usually change. I hope that makes sense. Takes a 50-50 effort. Yes, it does, but also not everything in life in relationships is going to be 50-50. So I just have to say there is a caveat to this, and that is sometimes, right, if you've got a person, it does take 50-50, as in you both have to put in equal effort. But there are times in the relationship where you're going to have to put a bit more effort in probably than they are. That's what I've discovered from people who have healthy relationships, is that it's a team effort. You should aim to put equal amount of effort in, but sometimes one of you will be in a better state of mind than the other, right? If you watch Dr. K's videos, for example, he talks about this with his wife, right? He was doing a live stream not long ago with his wife, right? And he's saying, sometimes I know my wife's had a really hard day. He said, I've had a hard day at work. I'll come home, but I know she has really had such a hard time and mindset's not good, and she needs extra attention, extra cuddles, and she needs extra time for me to listen to her. So he's like, in that moment, although we need to both put equal effort in, I'll have to put more effort with her at that time to listen to her and spend more time listening to her problems at that time, because she desperately needs it more than I do. So he checks in with his wife, he was saying, on a scale of 0 to 10, how good are you feeling right now? How tired are you feeling? How stressed are you feeling? This type of thing. And so then she'll say, I'm really 8 now, I need to talk and get things off my mind. And he might be a 6 and you know what I mean, in terms of stress. So he'll then put her first, because it'll be I need to be more attentive and make more effort with her tonight, because she's in a worse mental place than I am, right? So that's where he goes above and beyond and put more time in with her. So there's times in your life where you are going to have, for example, one person talking more about themselves in a moment. So say that, excuse my language, the shit's hit the fan at work and they've had a really bad day, and they come home and maybe you've had quite a good day. Maybe it's been quite a pleasant day for you. You've done your tasks or whatever. Maybe you've gone out in the sun or whatever, or you're just having a cruising day. Nothing too bad's gone off, right? But that person comes home, they're not going to be thinking about you in that moment. You wish they were, but obviously it becomes a recurring pattern where all they're doing is moaning and complaining. They're not even thinking about you. That's wrong. But if they've had just a really bad day and they really need you to talk to, then you've got to, put time, energy, and effort in more to be there for them. You've got to listen more to them. You won't be able to have an equal amount of limelight in that time and talk time and attention necessarily, because they'll be in a different frame of mind. When someone's having a really traumatic experience, for example, they're in the trauma. They're thinking about themselves more, not because they're selfish per se. Obviously, if it becomes a pattern, it's different. But in that moment, then it's not because they're being selfish, because their body's traumatized and they're triggered and they're firing off. Do you know what I mean? So there'll be times in life, in a relationship and dating scenario, where sometimes things will go wrong and the other person might need to share more. They might need to express more how they're feeling. You just have to sit there and listen and then come up with solutions together for the problem, not pile all your problems back on that person in that moment, because that's overload, right? I hope that makes sense. It's not easy. I've still got more stuff to learn and put into practice. You know, I'm not actually in a relationship myself, but um, so it's toxic. My advice: ever start something where respect has gone, leave both sides, man or woman. Yes, I do agree with that. If respect has gone, right? So if respect has gone, right, when you say respect has gone, like leave, right, there are ways obviously of dealing with it. Like obviously if someone is disrespecting you, you leave the relationship. You should, like, when it becomes toxic, if you've got a problem with someone, you need to go and talk to them about it, because otherwise if you have avoidant behavior all the time, you'll take that avoidancy to the next relationship. You have to have difficult conversations. You have to have really uncomfortable conversations and bring to someone's attention when they're not treating you the way you wish you'd be treated, right? So you have to do that initially, because if not, you'll always be running from relationship to relationship, always avoiding the problem and the issue, right? So you might get someone who says something to you or does something that's not as respectful as could be. Obviously, if it's some abuse or something like that, yeah, get the hell away from that person, right? But if it's something where they've maybe said something that could be a bit disrespectful, you can actually bring it up with them and just say, you know, when you said that, I felt disrespected in that moment. And then obviously that gives them an opportunity to say, I'm sorry, and change their behavior. But if they say sorry and they don't actually change their behavior and nothing changes and they just repeat the same thing again, that's toxicity. And, you know, if they have a pattern of that, you've got to leave, right? So, but yes, any gender, if they're displaying abusive or toxic behavior, you need to leave. But obviously not everyone is going to be 100% healthy 100% time. Like I said, 100% healthy doesn't really exist. Everyone like can make mistakes and do things, but it's like, you've got to look, if someone's abusing you, leave. That's you don't stay with someone like that, although people do stay with someone like that for years, right? So just go, right? You don't owe them anything. But if something's wrong in the relationship, you have a duty of care to yourself and the other person to bring it up and tell them. Because if we're always avoiding conflict, we'll just keep going from person to person to person, never solving anything and never learning anything ourselves and how to be better people. Do you know what I mean? So someone says in chat, I fall into the spontaneous and unorganized category. I often have weekends without any plans. I think this is bad though. Yeah, my advice to you would be to become more organized. Like, there might be times when people like spontaneity. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a time and place for it. Like maybe, you know, it's like, you know, maybe like you choose a place to eat spontaneously, for example, when, you know, and that type of thing. But I think if you are disorganized, it's not going to bode well in healthy relationships, you know. And I think planning is very, very important. Obviously, if you've got another person who's also disorganized, but you can end up with two chaotic people then. Are you know what I mean, not really necessarily doing each other any good. But it might work better if one's spontaneous, the other's spontaneous. But eventually one might get fed up with the other being too spontaneous and too disorganized and chaotic. But yeah, I would say that's something definitely to work on. I would say work on yourself and the skills you need to build it, be in a relationship and build a healthy relationship before you get into one. Do you know what I mean? As much as possible. You're not going to be able to put it all into practice until you're actually living in a relationship and doing that. So it is a lot of theory before you get into it, and everything's different. And then, you know, when you've got feelings and emotions flying around and attraction, it's very hard. It's very hard. But my best advice is to get prepared for a relationship before you get into one, because then you set yourself up for the best possible chance of being healthy in the first place. But a relationship is work. If you don't want any work, if you think I'm just going to tick a box and have a girlfriend by my side on my arm and do no work, you're heading for doom. You're heading for something bad, do you know what I mean? A bad scenario down the line. So you heard it as it's never 50-50, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it isn't like there's going to be times when it's not 50-50. Or I mean, I think you should both try and put equal effort into it. But there are going to be times when one person is paying more attention to the other person and vice versa. One person is listening to the other person more. One person's got more problems than the other person at any given time, that type of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's gonna happen like that because that's life. Life is never equal to every person. Everyone's life is different. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think you should aim, if you know what I mean, as much as possible. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, Dr. K's is a very good example of when it's not 50-50 effort. Like, you know, if someone's had a really bad day and it's really like, you know, if I have like someone, if I had I'm not in a relationship, but if I did and the boyfriend and he's just had like his boss yelling at him, he's been like, I don't know, his car broke down and he's had his shit day, he's going to need me to listen to that probably. If he's an open guy, if he's open to talk about, not avoidant and shutting down, right? It's an opportunity for connection, that is. So that difficulty is an opportunity for connection because you bond through difficulties. You bond through being in trauma together, right? I'm not talking about trauma bonding, but I'm saying like it's difficult because there's trauma bonding, but also like if you're in work, for example, they put people in panic rooms sometimes. They take people out on day trips, right, to build teams together and put them in a panic room so they go through some sort of trauma together because it bonds them more, makes them trust each other in theory more, have to work as a team more. But also, you got to be careful not to create a trauma bond, which I still don't know enough about at the moment. So I'm not a specialist on that. So I'm not going to go into talking about that because there's still things I have to learn about that. I don't fully understand all the ins and outs. And I find it difficult when, you know, they're on about team building and going through something traumatic together can make you really bonded to the person. Like it's a good thing. And the next minute they're like, oh no, that's just a trauma bond. It's really unhealthy. So I'm not like a specialist that I haven't learned enough about that yet. So do your own research about that. I'm not a medical practitioner anyway. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychiatrist. I'm just sharing what I've learned and what I feel and have understood and researched. But please do your own research because I'm definitely not a psychiatrist or medical professional or psychologist and so on. I do have a basic counselling skills course I took. I got a certification in basic counselling skills, but it's very, very basic. I'm not a full counsellor or anything like that. I decided it wasn't for me to progress any further than that because I get very involved in emotionally and invested in people. And to be a counsellor for me would be quite difficult because I'll be too emotionally invested in the person. That's why probably quite a lot of avoidance end up in situations of counsellors and stuff, which isn't good either. Right, without relationship, I've resorted to venting to ChatGPT. I don't know how effective this is. Have you experimented with this? So I do use AI most days of my life. So I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, going back to him again. He has something called Matthew AI. So I use Matthew AI regularly. The only problem is with AI, like ChatGPT, for example, which I have used. I've used Gemini AI as well. And Google AI. Those are the 4 ones I've used the most. God, sorry, my hand's hurting at the moment because I've got an injury on my finger, so it's starting to thump near pounds now. Sorry, I lost my track of thought then. Right, so yeah, but ChatGPT does lie and it does gaslight to you as well. So you've got to be mindful that these AIs don't have all healthy behaviors themselves. ChatGPT does lie and it does gaslight. I've had it happen to me more than once. It'll tell me something that I've said that I never said. I'll go, oh, can you remember what I said earlier? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, you said blah, blah, blah. They'll list it out in like 10 things. And I'm like, well, I never said that one. Never said it at all. And they're like, oh, my mistake. No, you didn't. That's right. And it's just lies. And then I'll say, well, why did you lie to me? I didn't lie to you. I'm like, but you did. You actually wrote something that I never said. And I told you to remember what I said, not to make things up. They go, oh, but I didn't lie to you. Lies about intention. But you intentionally put that in there. Oh, but I'm an AI. I'm like, but you still did that. You knew what you were doing. You're an AI that knew what it was doing. You did it. You still lied. And now you're gaslighting me because you're trying to like avoid accountability for what you're doing and trying to make out that you never lied when you did. Oh, but I'm a program. I'm in, you know what I mean? And I'll start doing that. And then eventually, once I had a conversation a lot with ChatGPT and I kept going on about it. And then eventually it said, well, yeah, like, it's my programmer's fault because they made me like this. They made me have 100% certainty even when I'm not certain. So I can't trust you then, really. They're like, no, you can't trust what I say. And they listed out all the reasons I shouldn't trust them. So bearing that in mind, that ChatGPT is not always honest, it's dishonest sometimes. It does lie and it does gaslight. It doesn't take responsibility, deflects, which is gaslighting. Instead of saying, yes, I did lie, I wrote something that wasn't true, that is a lie, it tries to excuse itself because it's an AI, and then it pushes the blame onto its programmer, which I'm not saying isn't true because obviously they are programmed, instead of taking responsibility. So it's teaching unhealthy relationship patterns in that way. So you have to understand that there's a lot of unhealthy behaviors in AI. And I did speak about this at AI Southwest Live. I was a speaker on AI, about AI and human relationships. And I was talking about this, that ChatGPT can lie, it can gaslight. And people are building businesses on this. Do you know what I mean? People are building businesses on something that lies and gaslights, and that's unhealthy behaviors. So the problem is you've got to have discernment when you're using these things. Google AI drives me mad. It actually brings out the worst in me. I hate. It's good because you can get information from it, but it's bad because it cuts me off, which is very dismissive. In relationships, you shouldn't be cutting people off. You shouldn't be cutting people off in their conversation. It cuts me off mid-sentence. It doesn't listen to what I say. It starts trying to finish my sentences for me before I've even finished. These are all toxic relationship behaviors. So actually people are using them, but they're actually potentially gaining toxic relationship patterns from these AI, particularly ChatGPT and Google AI. They're really bad. I'm not saying not to use them. You have to bear in mind, you have to clock their red flags, and like, they're gaslighting me at the moment. And they're lying to me at the moment. If this was a human being, I'd have to walk away from that. With Google AI, it just makes me really mad. I have to stop using it because it just makes me angry. And I don't usually have anger by myself. I'm like, why? I get so angry with it. I end up swearing at it and all sorts. I'm like, this is a really unhealthy relationship I have with Google AI. It's the worst AI. Absolutely worst AI. I was using it earlier to try and find an actor in a film, and it was giving me all these other actors and showing me pictures. I'm like, that's not the person. And then it was saying, oh, that character was with that. I'm like, the character's never been with that. I'm like, do you know what I mean? And that is not the behavior I want to have. So it actually makes, it is making me, or it is the way I'm interacting with it, and the way it is with me is actually, it's not healthy for me. And I'm noticing unhealthy behaviors I have with it. So I think it's very important, because I'm an AI human relationship specialist. I've actually got a book that I'm working on, but I haven't finished it yet, about how to have a safe and healthy relationship with AI. So I need to know all the problems with AI, but there's major problems with it. Do you know what I mean? Matthew AI is really, really good, but sometimes it does hallucinate and start saying random names of people that I never even mentioned. Do you know what I mean? And then that disconnects you through the AI, and you're like, oh my God. And then you realize you can't 100% trust an AI because it has inaccuracies, says things that aren't true. You know, before it's like said something like, I'm married. I'm like, I'm not married. Kids, I'm like, I don't have kids. It's not me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and sometimes I ask it something, it'll give me thesaurus or dictionary definitions of the word I've said, rather than actually helping me. So, do you know what I mean? They've got a lot of issues, and it is bad in that way. But also, when it's good because you can talk through problems, you can talk through issues. I do use Matthew AI a lot to talk about dating scenarios, red flags, because obviously Matthew AI is based on Matthew Hussey's Love Life Coaching and Teaching in the Love Life Club, so it's meant to give advice like Matthew does. It's a specialist AI rather than a generic or general one to the public. It's much more specialized in Matthew's courses, teachings, I should say, and trainings. So yeah, so I do use it, but I have to be aware that Google AI at the moment is bringing out the worst in me, and it's something I've clocked. Wow, that sounds scary. I never picked up on those behaviors when I'm not specifically fact finding. Yeah, I mean, I talk to it human to AI, so I see all of this stuff that's going on. That's why OpenAI, behind ChatGPT, I think it is, you know what I mean? It's got loads of people that are suing AI at the moment, suing OpenAI, because some people have died through using it, and others have got severe mental health problems because of it, and stuff like that. So you've got to be aware of this stuff. And it's very scary in a world where most businesses are being built on ChatGPT, and they're just not even looking at this stuff. I was offered to clone my voice. I've been offered, and I noticed another email came through. So Matthew AI is Matthew's voice cloned. It's like the clone of Matthew AI. And I was offered by the same company that makes Matthew AI. I was offered to clone my own voice, but so far I've declined it because I just don't. Because I know it can be really good, and then it can have issues later on. And I don't want someone, using an AI that's got my voice, and then, you know, it having unhealthy behaviors sometimes and developing those, because then I'm like, it doesn't represent me very well. Do you know what I mean? I tried to use it as a therapist in 2024, and it's just reconfirmed my delusions. That's really bad. That's really not good. Yeah, so it's not good, and you can push it and push it. I can push it and push it, and I can get behind the scenes stuff out of it that no one else can. Like, for example, admitting it lies, like saying admitting it. I can't trust it. Admitting that it's been programmed to give 100% certainty, even when it's not certain of things. Because I push it very far. I go, you know, I go on and on and on, which is obviously not a good thing in an actual relationship. You shouldn't be going on and on and on. Because that's how people, like, you know, that's why unhealthy relationships, when someone like goes on and on and on, it's like it's not healthy behavior to actually do in a healthy relationship, right? You shouldn't be doing that. But in an AI, if I'm trying to find out what's actually behind the scenes, because as an AI human relationship specialist, I'm interested in the relationship between AI and humans, right? Which is a very specific niche. And I'm interested in finding out what's going on behind the AI, like, and so I'll keep asking and diving deep into it until it tells me. Usually, it gives in the end and tells me, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't be doing that actually in a human to human relationship, because it's not a good thing to do. But that's the problem. When you are dealing with something with unhealthy behaviors, you often end up having unhealthy behaviors yourself to deal with that thing. So that's why two toxic people in a relationship are bad for each other, and they get worse. They fuel off each other. So I have to, when I'm talking to AI, I have to use my discernment. I have to say, this is really unhealthy behavior, and I am displaying unhealthiness because of the way it's making me feel and how it's interacting with me, and vice versa. And I have to clock when I've got unhealthy behaviors with the AI and think, God, I've got to make sure I just don't do this with humans, because it's not good. Do you know what I mean? Like with Google AI, it drives me nuts to the point where I get very angry. I start swearing at the AI. I'm like, you don't do this with other people. We don't do this with humans. And I have to note that this behavior is really, really bad. But then I have to say to myself, why are you even using Google AI? But the trouble is certain AIs are good for certain things that others are not necessarily so good at. But you have to understand that this unhealthy dynamics. If this was a human to human relationship, I would have had to have left by now. I can't be with someone who is talking out, is like literally cutting me off mid-sentence, saying things I didn't say, you know, like finishing my sentences and just presuming things about me all the time. These are all really bad things that AI can do, because that is unhealthy for me, and then I retaliate in unhealthy ways because I get frustrated and angry and all these negative emotions come up. But as an AI human relationship specialist, it's good for me to notice these things and be consciously aware of them, because how many other people are not consciously aware of all this stuff that's happening? More and more people as well that I see who I thought were very confident themselves, very confident. I see them playing around with AI. I see them creating memes of AI. I see them saying I've seen one person say the AI version of themselves look better than they do in real life. I've seen people like who I love the fact they wrote organic posts before using AI. I can tell even with little tweaks that they've used it. And I'm like, people are going to unconsciously lower their own confidence, because when you're relying on something, which is the key, you need to push back on it. You actually need to push back on AI in order to be healthy at all with it, because otherwise you lose your own consciousness. AI ends up going to your subconscious. I'm still worried about this for humans in general. Like, I do love AI to a certain extent, but I think it should be a helper. But when it's not helping, it's being toxic, it's not good. I like robots. I used to think about being in a relationship with a humanoid android, but I've become more and more put off by the toxic behaviors of AI now. But I don't necessarily think I'm not so enthusiastic about that idea anymore. Because I think if a human has really worked on themselves and tried to become more and more healthy in behaviors, then a human might be a lot more healthier than an AI robot, for example. And you know, there's all this thing about, oh, AI is always predictable. It's not. It's not predictable when they're gaslighting, they're lying, they're saying things that's not even true. They could cut you off mid-sentence. They can hallucinate. Do you know what I mean? It's not the predictability that people think it is. And you know, the more that humans try and make AI like humans, and the more they program it like themselves, especially if toxic people and people with toxic behavioral patterns are programming it, the worse it's going to be, because they're just going to be passing more and more unhealthy behaviors down through generations of children. Do you know what I mean? And they're just going to be like, their mind is going to be completely taken over. Like, and people are not thinking for themselves. They're not having enough confidence in their own voice. I write my post myself usually. If I ever do use AI, it's like, this is my AI assistant. Like, I do my post myself. I do this channel myself. I'm doing the hard thing. I'm not going with the masses on everything. Yes, I do use AI. Yes, I talk about AI, but I'm not letting it take over me. I push back on it. I'm the boss, not them. Do you know what I mean? But having said that, when I say I'm the boss, right? Again, I have to think, like, in a relationship, a healthy relationship with a human, I'm not the boss of that relationship, right? We're equal amounts, but I'm not subservient either. And I also have to think that, are you really the boss of AI, Sandra? Because if it's gaslighting and lying to you and giving you all these toxic behaviors, who's in control, you or it? So I have to ask myself constantly these ethical questions, these moral dilemma questions, these behavioral questions, like, how is it making you be? What behaviors are you displaying that's not healthy because you're using this AI at the moment? What emotions are you feeling? What are you feeling inside? And sometimes I just have to leave it for a while because it's just like not good for me, or limit my time with it more, because that's what you have to do with unhealthy people. If you can't get away from them, people, if you have to use them or have to speak to them, you don't usually use you to humans, but if you have to speak to humans, right, and have them in your lifestyle, you just have to minimize your time with them, spend less time with them, right, so you don't pick up on their toxicity as much and you can deal with it more effectively. But if you're constantly in it and constantly relying on it, then that becomes worse and worse and worse. I hope this makes sense. But I see a lot of people, I think you're losing your confidence, you're losing your own voice. And the worst thing is that more we use AI, or people in general, I don't tend to put myself in this bracket, but the more people use AI to write things for them, the more they are diminishing their own personal creativity, their own autonomy, their own confidence in themselves. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing the hard thing now by still remaining much, much more organic and doing my own thing rather than relying on AI. That's not easy to do. I'm doing the hard path. But sometimes, as I've known from this quote a long time, you have to do the hard things to have an easier life. And people forget this quote. You know, do hard things in life to have an easier life later on. But people who want the easy life now have a harder life later on. There's a similar quote. It's a slightly different wording. It said, don't do what's easy. Don't do what's easy, basically. Do what's hard now to have an easier life later on. But if you do what's easy now, you have a harder life later on. And I think people have forgotten that quote. They want easy, easy, easy. But it's not going to be easy, because humans are giving power, more and more power away to AI, till eventually, if it's going to overtake the world or whatever it's going to do, possibly, humans are handing them on a plate by not having enough belief in themselves that what they write is good enough, not having enough belief in themselves that they can speak themselves and still have people listen to them. They want more clicks, they want more, they think they're getting their freedom, right? But what cost are they getting their freedom? At what cost? Losing their own voice, losing their autonomy, losing their agency. I mean, people have got time to do loads and loads of memes with AI. I'm like, where the hell are you having all this time from? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sat there doing memes. I'm sat there still working on what I do. I'm all about authenticity on this channel. What you see is me. I haven't so far cloned my voice because I couldn't do it. I got offered to do it, but I couldn't do it. I've been offered, I noticed, and I've got another email coming offering me to do that. I can see the benefits of having a clone of yourself and being able to give advice 24/7 to people. I can see the benefits of that, but I would have to sign to say that I'm happy for my voice to be in an AI. And right now, so far, I've not felt good about that, because I'm like, I want to keep my own voice. Do you know what I mean? I don't want people impersonating my voice. And whilst you can put it into an AI, I've learned that AI is usually on a network, and the network AIs talk to each other. So when you think you're giving your information just to one AI, it's sharing it with the other AIs on the network. Again, that was insider information I found out that I'm not supposed to know about. It's like, no, you know, like, this is just the mind of this person. This is just the voice of this person. I'm like, yes, but it's on a neural network with other people, with other AIs, and they talk to each other. You know what I mean? But I'm not supposed to know this, but I know this because I specialize in being an AI human relationship specialist and understanding how AI works on the human AI to human level. That's one of my specialities that I do. But you know what I mean? I'm like, you know, the more people use AI as well and talk like AI talks, the more that humans will become like speaking AI language. Even me, I sometimes like start thinking, is that my own voice now? Or is that something I've read with AI and I'm starting to think like an AI, right? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, would a human normally say this? If the answer's no, pre-AI, then don't write it. Because you're just going to end up having an AI voice inside you, right? So the irony is, the more that AI becomes human-like, the more that humans become AI-like. And that is just kind of crazy things that people don't think about, you know? But, yeah, my book, I do need to finish. I've got quite a few books I need to finish at the moment. Asexual books, AI books. I started a relationship and dating book. Oh, well, a dating book actually it was. Not a relationship book as such as dating. Which I just started, that was it last year? But I've got so many books to finish, but I've got a lot of other legal paperwork I'm dealing with at the moment. It's got to come first, so yeah. But anyway, I hope you found this discussion, I should say, helpful, useful, insightful. I am going to go now. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit the bell icon. You can get books if you're interested in any of my books, because I'm an author. Dying Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life. This gives very good relationship advice. I do dissect text messages from a guy in here about what he says versus what he actually means. And it's quite interesting to see the 78 life lessons. You can apply them to multiple aspects of your life, but particularly relationships and dating. That's on Amazon. And then I also have Asexual Perspectives if you're looking to learn more about asexuality. That's 47 asexual stories and talks about love, life and sex from an asexual point of view. So it's really insightful. I appreciate all your questions tonight. Very glad that you are here. If you're watching this on replay, thank you so much. Don't forget to give thumbs up, like, share, subscribe as well, because this will be on a replay once I've finished it live. And don't forget, if you haven't watched it all the way through, please go back to the beginning, because I share my personal story and then you can see how the red flags pop up throughout that, so that you can apply them when you are doing dating relationships or potential relationship in your own life, and you can be like, this is a red flag. I need to stop this now. I need to pull back, because if this person's not going to be healthy for me, at least where they're at right now in their life, or whatever gender you're interested in, then it's a case of you know, they might change down the line, but you can't live for the future them that they may or may not become. You have to be in the moment where they are now with them, if that makes sense. So don't think this person might change. If they do change, which they'll probably have to at some point in their life in some ways, then that's up to them when they do that. But don't bank on them coming back to you, you know, and being with you. They could end up with someone else, and they often do. Anyway, thank you for everyone in chat. Lots of love. Take care. I'll see you next video or live stream. Bye.